All right, everyone. Welcome to Futv Gaming. Today we're going to be doing a breakdown of this fraud company. Well, not completely fraud. They actually used to be pretty good. They still are pretty good, but they are full of crap. This is not for the players. You know how Sony likes to say for the players? I don't believe they are. They've been scamming you guys out for a long time now. I actually used to be really into Sony back when I was a little kid, and then I found out they were full of shit. All right, so we're going to be pointing out all the scams. All right. Starting with E3, I think it was E3 2005, where they really showed their true face, their true ugly face. Okay, give me one moment. I've compiled loads of information here. I'm going to be showing it throughout this live stream. All right. I don't know where the heck I put this file. It was a bit. I'm going to set it up right now. It was back at E3 2005. I think it was 2005 when they first showed the PS3. And they lied. They showed a bunch of CGI and they said it wasn't CGI, that it was real gameplay footage. And this actually hurt Sony a lot because later when the PS3 came out, none of this stuff looked like these videos. Okay, just give me a moment. I don't know where the heck I put it. I have like so many folders here. All right. You know, it'd be cool if Bob was here talking. That'd be good because she can like fill the space of me looking for these files, right? All right. One moment as I look for this. Okay, first we'll watch this. We're gonna watch this. This is actually, I can't show this to you. We gotta wait. I gotta do this in the right order. All right. All right, let's listen to some music. We'll bring the music up a little bit while I look for this file. Yeah, I probably should have had this up before I started the stream, but yeah, a little bit unorganized here, people, dealing with a bunch of stuff before the stream. Sorry, I've been canceling it about 20 different times. All right. So here we go. This is Sony back in the year, what year was it? This was 13 years ago. All right. Okay. All right, let's see. Okay, hopefully the audio's come through. Oh, the audio's up.
You can't come to E3 with something like the PlayStation 3 under your arm and not expect to attract massive attention and naturally some hardball questions. Well, luckily, the Executive Vice President of Sony Computer Entertainment America, Jack Tretton, is not the kind of guy who's going to shy away from that kind of pressure. So joining us now is Jack. Jack, how are you?
Good, Jeff. Good to see you.
So you are having such a great week, I think. You know, the PlayStation 3 unveiling just wowed people earlier in the week. Why do you think people responded so positively to what you showed for PS3?
Well, I look at it as 20 years in this industry has gone by so incredibly fast. Technology moves so quickly.
All right, people, this guy lies his ass off, just so you know. Sony was, people were really positive about this. They're really happy, and I guess Sony was like, whoa, they believe this is actual gameplay? All right, let's just lie to them.
Quickly in this business, but really the last 9 months has been what I consider to be the perfect wave, you know, the renaissance, a time that we'll never see again, in that we announced the redesigned PlayStation 2 and shipped that out to market, and we expected to attract a lot of consumers with that, but given the fact that we were already in 1 in 4 U.S. households, we were kind of going after the few people who hadn't jumped on board. Right. We were thrilled to see that a lot of PlayStation 2 owners went back to buy the redesigned PlayStation 2. They loved that so much, and we haven't been able to catch up with demand with that ever since. Even though we've been out there for 5 holiday seasons, we just can't seem to catch up with demand with PlayStation 2. Then you have the PSP debut just 7 short weeks ago, generating $400 million in sales at retail.
This guy sounds like Michael J. Fox or something. It's kind of weird.
In 6 short weeks, and then we follow that up with the PS3.
Is that Marty McFly?
Press announcement. So
Marty McLie?
And why do you think people were so blown away by what they saw? I mean, was it just, you know, because your competitors are talking about how they think, you know, the next generation is starting this year with the Xbox 360. You guys have sort of a different view, I think, right?
Oh, no question about it. I think the next generation begins when we say...
Generation.
It does. I mean, it's all about delivering a quantum leap in technology. And I think if you look back to the original PlayStation and what people were experiencing on 16-bit machines, when they saw the original PlayStation, their jaw dropped. And everybody says, well, this is as good as it gets, myself included, man. We'll never see technology like this. How can you top this?
Right, but
5 years later, PlayStation 2 drops everybody's jaw. So I guess the point I was trying to make is quantum leap in technology. The most naive consumer could look at that and go, my God, this is just...
I was impressed, but one thing that Microsoft's focused on is software and services with their Xbox Live. A lot of people have been asking, what Sony is going to do with their online strategy. You guys talked a little bit about it, an idea called PlayStation World. Are you guys going to have sort of a unified online strategy coming forward? Because Microsoft is saying, that's going to
They brought something called PlayStation Home and they killed it. They canceled it.
be one of their big competitors.
They was around for a couple of years and they killed it off. People are actually really into it. They even bought virtual goods through this thing, and then Sony said, "Hey, go F yourself."
Advantages. What's your response to that?
I think our motto is under promise and over deliver. So online games,
I think they're usually more over promise, under deliver. That's it, right? Over promise, under deliver.
for console gamers is kind of a new experience. You're talking about 30 million plus consumers playing in North America on PlayStation 2, but really...
All right, so in a couple of minutes, Jaffe's going to ask about these supposed gameplay videos from E3.
Only a couple of million people that can consider themselves online gamers, so it's still in its infancy stages. But I think the difference is we haven't forced people initially to be a broadband player. They could be an analog player. We haven't forced people to subscribe to a service, so we really want to spoon feed it to them in the way that they want to get it. We don't want to force a publisher to get on with a mass service. We just don't think that's the way to go.
It's a smart plan. Now, you guys showed some great demos for PS3. One of them that I really liked was a new game from Insomniac. The Ratchet & Clank guys now have this sort of interesting first-person shooter, sort of looks like a mix between Half-Life 2, Call of Duty. Tell me about sort of that idea of, putting a team like a...
People, it was fake. This wasn't real gameplay. Completely faked for the show. Killzone didn't, not Killzone, Resistance didn't look anything like this. It actually looked like a PS2 game. This actually looks better than some PS5 games.
Insomniac, which is used to doing sort of these almost, kiddie games, onto something that looks very mature. What was the decision behind that?
Well, Ted Price...
Dude, these people, they faked everything. They even faked the slowdown and the screen tearing and all of it.
He's absolutely a genius, and his team over there has done an incredible job, and we've been fortunate to work exclusively with those guys back to the original PlayStation. As you said, they brought the Spyro franchise to us there, and they brought Ratchet & Clank, but I guess the little-known secret is that's the type of game that Ted's always wanted to do, and he feels that this is the right canvas to paint it on, so we're really excited what his team's going to bring for PS3.
Right. Now, I know there were some other demos that were shown there. There was Killzone. A lot of people were excited about that. People were wondering, though, was some of the stuff real? Was it CGI? It looked so good. I mean, what was the sense from you? Is there some stuff in there that's just, computer smoke and mirrors?
It's definitely...
It was all CGI, people.
Real. I guess we're pretty good at keeping secrets.
Smoke and mirrors?
It's definitely real. I guess we're pretty good at keeping secrets because the dev kits were out there. The dev kits are very intuitive, so people did some incredible things. And that's one thing Ted wanted to make sure everybody understood. That is real gameplay everybody's seeing out there. And I think the other advantage
so it is gameplay. All that stuff is all gameplay?
And I mean, beyond great gameplay, I think we have the opportunity to tap into worldwide development resources. Because when you mention something like...
It wasn't gameplay, people. It was all CGI. That was a lie. And he knows it was a lie. Michael J. Lie over there. Or Fox, Fox, he's cunning, he's tricky. Michael J. Fox there. Sony's Michael J. Fox. This is another one of the games that was at the show that they said was real gameplay. This was gameplay, people. Now they're going to do a comparison between the footage that Sony said is gameplay and what actually came out when the PS3 was released. This was something Sony did for years. They lied when they put out the first PlayStation. They said that it was going to have Toy Story, Pixar level graphics. And then they did the same thing with the PS2, and people kept buying it. They kept buying it over and over again. It was never true. They tried to do it this time, but this was the worst. This hurt them the most because they put out a $600 console built on a lie. And the Xbox had come out before the PlayStation 3, so people were actually holding over. They weren't buying the Xbox because they were waiting. They were like saving their money for the PS3. That was like it was a few months away, but actually it wasn't because Sony lied about the release date as well. They said it was like right around the corner, and then it came out like 6 months after the time they said it was going to come out. And they did this to kind of like keep people from buying the Xbox. They always do this. They lie about release dates. This is why when Sony puts out a release date, I never trust it. Never. Like Uncharted, I remember they said was coming out in 2014, right? I think it ended up coming out in 2016. That's a big difference, people. The 2-year difference. This was back when the PS4 had just come out. They said, "Oh, the next Uncharted 4 is right around the corner, 2014," and then it came out at the end of 2016. So they're lying. They know for a fact that this game was not right around the corner. They're just trying to get you to buy their hardware so you're locked in. They don't want you to buy the rival piece of hardware because during the PS4 Xbox One generation, the Xbox had the better lineup. Anybody that knows gaming knows that Xbox was doing way better on software, people. They came right out the gate with Killer Instinct. They had this game Rise. They had Forza Motorsport. They had right around the corner was Titanfall. Their lineup was destroying Sony. So that's just another time they were lying. Let's watch this. Yeah, no difference, huh, guys? Looks just the same. Sony definitely wasn't lying. Wow, that image on the right looks just like the image on the left, doesn't it? They called that target. That was the target. Well, they were really off the target, weren't they? I think they were out way outside the target. They didn't even hit the board. I say this, the closest thing to these graphics, sorry about the video quality. I couldn't find a really good high quality video of this E3 footage. I actually have the disc around here. I forgot the name of the company, but that put it out. This E3, I have it on disc. It has the Xbox and the PlayStation 3 and the Wii. Which actually, I mean, this was probably one of the greatest console generations ever, was this one. The PS3, Xbox, Wii generation. I feel like that's where they came out with all the ideas that we have right now when it comes to gaming. It's like they refined everything that was in the previous generations and that one. Now we're just, I guess they're trying to improve the graphics, but that's a whole nother story, people. But yeah, the closest game I think that comes to these graphics is Forza. I think the most recent Forza looks very similar, but still, this is still superior graphically, the CGI footage. So yeah, there you go. Looked nothing like that. Not even close. Anyway, the game was cool. I'm gonna play it on stream. I think I didn't play a lot of MotorStorm, but yeah, it looked nothing like that. They lied. It was a complete lie. That's what Sony does, people. That's what they effing do. All right? That's what they do. All right, so we're going to go look at some of the debacle when it comes to the DRM. The DRM debacle, people. All right, the DRM. Sony, you know, they're exposing the evil. They were exposing the evil Microsoft. This was the big story when this was one of the big stories. There was also the whole resolution thing because, you know, anything that gave them the upper hand, in the public eye, that's all it is. Because you know that Sony was going to do DRM as well during the 8th generation. So this is one of the videos Sony put out at the very beginning of the 8th generation to kind of throw some dirt in the rival company's eyes. Let's see this. Sony's totally against DRM, people. They're totally against it.
This is how you share your games on PS4.
Thanks.
PlayStation. All right, so they put that out there because they love you guys, right? They love you, even though they didn't make the PlayStation 4 backwards compatible with the PS3 or the PS2 or the PS1. They also were going to do DRM. That was found out after. And they haven't finished with DRM, people. They're still going to do... They're currently doing DRM, actually. All right? Let's look at this. This is for the new drive they're putting out in the PS5, and this is going to be in the PS5 Pro. It says Sony adding online-only DRM to its PS5 Slim disk drive is an unsurprising look at the future of console gaming. It says perhaps for good reason, but this thing will be a waste. Sorry, people, I'm reading this from across the room. This thing will be e-waste one day. So you don't own your games anymore, people. Weren't these guys coming out and they were PlayStation, right? And they were trying to throw some shade at Xbox. If that's the case, why are they all invested in DRM? Did you guys read your agreement? This is from the PlayStation Store right here. Look at this. You see this last sentence right here? It says here, this means you can use a product in the ways described in the license, but do not own the product. This is saying here that you don't own your games. Whatever games you purchase from the PlayStation Store, you do not own them. And Sony has the right to take them from you whenever they feel like, for whatever reason they like. You do not own any of the games you buy from the PlayStation Store. None of them. And they're now, and as you just saw in the last document, they're trying to move you to all digital. That basically your drive has to be registered online. This drive you buy. Everything has to go through the internet. This is the same thing that Sony's doing on the PC. I've experienced this myself. I did a stream a few days ago with Death Stranding, and guess what? Well, sorry, it wasn't Death Stranding. It was what's that other game? They go on the motorcycle. Days Gone. I tried to play Days Gone. I didn't have my internet connection on. You know what happened? I could not access the game. I couldn't play it. Isn't that cool? But I thought these guys were against DRM, right? They're for the players, right? All right. There's got a little bit more information here about this. This is about, since they're all about the gamers, right? They're all about the gamers here. This is, I asked Google a question. I said, can the PlayStation 5 play any of these classic PlayStation games? It says, at the moment, you cannot play PS1, PS2, and PS3 games natively on PS5. This means that putting in PS1, PS2, and PS3 discs, you don't want to put them in at the same time, people. But even if, even if you put them individually, it still doesn't work. PS3 disc into your PS5 will not work. This also means that any digital PS3 games which you own cannot be downloaded and played on the PS5 either. Isn't that great? They're all for the players, right? Well, you can play. Some people would say, oh, that's technically not correct because you can go and play some remasters, right? Some PS3 remasters. You can play some PS2 games. You can mod the system, but I'm saying officially from Sony, you cannot play anything that they don't resell to you again. So there are some PS1 games on there that they're re-releasing, but you cannot take any of your physical games and pop them in that system. And guess what? Oh, remember the agreement I just showed you, everything you buy from PSN is not your property. So you don't even own those PS1 games you're buying digitally from PlayStation. According to their agreement, you don't own any of them, okay? So you can go, if you had a physical copy, they can't take that from you. None of those old PS1 games belong, they're yours. You own them. They don't matter if the internet is on or not. You just pop that into your PS1, PS2, PS3. They work. They just work. The game is on the disc, right? And also, people, just on a side note, obviously it's relevant to what we're talking about here. But since when is downloading games and waiting forever to play them like the new standard? Is this? I thought the standards were supposed to be higher. They were supposed to set the bar higher. Why is it that we're buying games and we're getting a digital copy or a code on a disc and then we got to download a 200 gigabyte file, 300 gigabyte file? What happened to the days of just putting the disc in the console and the game just turns on? Because I mean, Nintendo and Atari set the bar pretty high, I guess, right? Maybe not graphics, but accessibility and, respecting your time. You literally would just take the game and put it in the system and it would just start instantaneously. This was the standard all the way up to the Xbox 360. Even the PS3, many times the game would just start. You can install your games on the Xbox, right, people? On the Xbox 360, you can actually install your games. Officially, they let you install them. What you would do is you put it in the system, install it, and then you would just use the disc like a key. That was it. It would actually play the game just fine. This whole installing thing is not a new thing. And also, you could, and like I just said, you had two options. You had the option to install the game, or you had the option of just simply just playing it right off the bat. So why are the standards so much lower now? How are people okay with this? And people will say, oh, well, the games are big. Well, that's not a terrible excuse because, there's carts, there's cartridges, there's memory cards. Like you look at something like this Nintendo Switch, right? The games are on cartridges. You just pop them in the system and they start instantaneously. So I don't get how are people okay with this? It boggles my mind. Just saying. All right, on another side note here, we got Sony putting out a Until Dawn movie. Why? Why are they doing this? First, they make this cheesy like this Last of Us TV show. I mean, it's okay. It's like it's like a C-level version of Last of Us. It's nowhere near as good as the game, right? But I don't understand how you take basically an interactive movie game, an interactive movie. That's what Until Dawn is. It's interactive. And so now you're going to take all the interactive parts out of it. You're also going to take out all the branching paths because what was special about games like Until Dawn is that there's branching paths. There could be multiple endings. It's like you're choosing you're controlling the movie. You actually have some control over the movie you're watching, right? To sophisticate, I guess it's a sophisticated point and click adventure, I guess. And it's an old style of gameplay too. I mean, there was old Sega CD games like this. There's a lot of different video games have been doing this for a long time, but not like this cinematic version of it, right? Where you're controlling a movie. So what's the benefit of turning this into a movie now where you have no interactivity with it? You control nothing. You're just watching an hour and 30-minute long movie that you have no control over. This to me is like a downstep. So I guess Sony's just trying to make a little extra money for people who don't like video games. And that's it, right? They'll like that. And then they'll, build a sequel off of it. Maybe. I don't know. All right, so we got some more stuff over here. We got the DRM. And then we have the competition, right? The evil Xbox, right? They're so evil. They are a business. They're trying to make money. But they're also trying to respect their consumers, right? Respect their intelligence a little bit, maybe. Maybe, right? Let's see this. This is what Xbox, their response to what Sony's doing and where the industry's going. Because if you guys didn't know it, the Xbox, they were trying to do DRM, but they were trying to do it in a way where it respected the consumer and where it respected the small business, right? They were trying to make a system where there was the DRM because they know what the future is. This is what all these guys want. They want this DRM, but they were going to make it where you could still sell your discs and the retailers like GameStop could still make money, right? They could still make money off of these physical discs. They were just going to take some money. They were going to have the developers and Microsoft themselves, who, as you see, are investing a lot of money in video game development and in games. They're in the business of making games and selling consoles. So they want to make some of that money back, right? On their investment. They don't want to just have GameStop take it all. Or the mom and pop shops or other. They want to get a little bit of that money back. So what happened is that there was a public outcry, which I think, and it wasn't a real public outcry. It was a media hack job. The whole point was to crush them and to prop up Sony, right? As they're the saviors, even though I just showed you they're really not. They're actually, if anything, they're the ones hurting the business more than almost anyone. They're going straight up DRM on like everything. They're putting out a system, the PlayStation Pro. That thing doesn't even have a disc on it. The only SKU of the PS5 Pro that's coming out has no disc drive on it. I know the Xbox has some of these systems that they don't have a disc drive, but you have they're not that's not the only version they're putting out that has no disc. So you got to go buy that disc drive, right? Okay, so they're going in that direction. But what I'm talking about here is that what Xbox is doing is they're trying to go towards preservation. We'll see right here. But before I get to this video, like I was going to say, I'm a little bit confused. I'm a little off. Drinking a bunch of coffee. I shouldn't drink too much coffee. So what they were doing is they were going for preservation, right? This is why they were giving the money and they were trying to keep physical ownership alive. This is why they've gone into, this is why the new standard now, they set the standard, the Xbox. This is why Sony has PS4 backwards compatibility. That's why they have it, because the Xbox had it. They had backwards compatibility with 3 generations of Xbox, right? The first system, the 360, and the One. All right? Okay, we're going to watch this video. And then I'll talk some more about that. But yeah, their idea, Phil Spencer, is all about preservation. All right, that DRM thing they were doing, that was they had a lot of stuff on there that was a lot better than what we're getting right now. They actually had it where you can go and take your discs, load them in. Since there was a checkup, right, on the internet, an internet check, they would let you load your games into your hard drive, and then you wouldn't even have to have them in the console. You know that? You wouldn't have to have it in the console. Also, you had the ability to do what they called family sharing. So you could have one copy of that game and have it on multiple systems. I don't know if they still do this system, but this is one of the things that we're talking about. But it was called family sharing. So now instead of, like right now, we have to buy multiple copies of a game in order to do multiplayer, like LAN party thing, right? They were going to make it where you can just put it in multiple systems. All right, we're going to watch this video right now.
Enjoyed by countless generations. We're passionate about preserving and celebrating the games you own, the classics of the past, and the genres you love to play. That's why 2 years ago, we launched the Xbox Backward Compatibility Program to bring Xbox 360 games to your Xbox One. And we've seen tremendous growth in the program. Today, our library of games stands at 385 titles, and over half of Xbox One gamers.
Can somebody tell me why Sony isn't doing this? Why are they, again, with the DRM, right? You can play PS3 games on your PS4 and 5, but you really can't own them, right? You got to play them through a streaming service. You know, it's like, why wouldn't they put that money? Like, look, they got the PS5 Pro, right? Why don't you put allow it to play PS3 games, right? I think that's the real pro. The real pro, we don't need more resolution. We need to have the ability to play PS3 games, PS2 games, and PS1 games on a Sony platform. If you do that, I'll sell my PS5 in 2 seconds and buy that one, right? That's the one I want. That's the PS5 Pro I want, is the one that plays all the Sony games.
Have played a backward compatible game. But I've heard your feedback and you want more. Today, I'm pleased to announce an exciting expansion to the program.
You see, people, this is why we need E3 and trade shows again. Look, it's like a big celebration, right? Why don't we have E3 anymore? You want to know why? Because E3 started as a trade show. That's why. It was for the people that sell these physical copies to look at, you know, the up and coming titles, and they can go and buy a bunch of this and then, you know, sell it. But now, since they're cutting them out, they're like, why do we need E3 anymore? Well, I'd say, why do we need Best Buy? Why do we need the Super Bowl? Why do we need E3? Why do we need Comic-Con? This is a ridiculous question. Of course we need E3. It's where all the fandoms comes together, all the people, and we know it. It's like a big celebration. It's way better than the Game Awards, people. There's that human energy is there. And to have these stupid directs, PlayStation directs and all that, that's so it's like dehumanized. It just doesn't feel the same. I remember Nintendo actually started this. Remember when they pulled themselves out of E3 back in the day? You want to know why they did that? It's because they couldn't compete. It's because they had no real software. That's why they didn't come to E3. Also, they were freaking cheap. They didn't want to spend money. Now you got multi-billion-dollar companies who can't make E3 anymore. This is ridiculous. You guys, you see the energy here.
are working hard to bring us some of your favorite original Xbox game to today's Xbox One library, including a fan favorite that I'm asked about often by the community, Crimson Skies. And it looks great. And like the Xbox 360 games, OG games will look better and play better across the Xbox One family. We'll have more to share about this program when it launches later this year.
I don't understand. People, sorry if this video is blasting, but it sounds like it's blasting in my damn ear. All right, let's go back.
I'm proud of the library of games available today on Xbox One. All of them will benefit from the performance and power when you play them on Xbox One X. But we won't stop there. I'm excited to announce that if you own Gears of War 4, Forza Horizon 3, Killer Instinct, Halo Wars 2, or Minecraft, we'll be providing 4K updates to these titles for free.
Oh, whoa, Sony would be charging you for all that, right?
And we already have over 30 titles from our third-party partners that are planning to provide free updates as part of our Xbox One X Enhanced program. Titles like Final Fantasy 15.
All right, we get it, people. You see that? That's the difference. That's when you respect your fans. And this isn't about being a Xbox fanboy or anything like that. This is just showing the double standards. That everybody hated this company and said they're trash and that they're thieves and all this, and that they're praising Sony over here, who's constantly lying to you, who's doing everything to you that they said this other company was doing, right? Okay. All right, so we already looked at this. This is how you play a place. I showed you guys the PlayStation video. All right. And so, yes, there was a bunch of media hype around this DRM thing. They buried the Xbox One, and in a lot of ways, this almost actually killed the Xbox brand because of this DRM thing, which I find hilarious because you know that most people, they bought a PS4, and you know, they did a survey, and they found that most people actually bought their PS4 games digital. They bought them digital. And guys, you saw it already, right? You don't own any of these games. You hated the Xbox for DRM, but then you went and you accepted DRM.
Hey guys, Justin here with a GameSpot news update. New head of Xbox Phil Spencer says that the recent uproar around the Xbox One controversy last summer has hurt him personally. Spencer's comments come in response to the controversy surrounding the Xbox One's original announcement, which included a 24-hour check-in requirement and DRM that prevented used game sales. Spencer has since acknowledged that some of the Xbox One policy decisions announced last summer and later reversed were wrong. During a podcast with Microsoft's Larry Major Nelson Herb, Spencer said, "I believe in why this company builds products. It's one of the reasons why the whole thing around last summer with Xbox kind of hurt me personally so much. Because I know we build Xbox for the right reasons. We didn't completely communicate it the right way. Some of the decisions maybe didn't land or weren't the right decisions, and we changed some of those. But this is a company that has the resources to really do things that change the world." Despite the rocky start, the Xbox One has seen strong sales in the new year, bolstered by the release of the Microsoft exclusive Titanfall and a number of price drops in game pack-ins. Later this week, we'll have NPD numbers, so we'll know exactly how well the Xbox One did last month. So stay tuned to GameSpot.com for even more Xbox One news.
All right, so they were really unhappy about the reception to this. I mean, they knew, like I said, they knew where the market was going. They, in a lot of ways, what they were doing is they were trying to ease the public into this DRM shit, I think. That's really what it was. Sony just basically did it behind your back. These guys were easing the industry into it, possibly. We don't know if they were going to go all the way with the DRM, but they were doing a slow transition where Sony just came out and boom, right under your nose, they did all this stuff. And now what they're doing is they're bringing all these digital consoles. This is going to kill the small retail. This is going to most likely kill GameStop because unlike the plan that the Xbox had where you could still get the physical games and you could sell these games that have DRM on them, now it's just, we're just going to take the drive off and now that's it. It's over with, right? Okay. All right, so give me a second. I got some more stuff here. I'm going to see if I got all this out of the way, all these files about the DRM. Okay. We got another video here from GameStop.com. We're not going to watch too much of it, but we're looking at how everybody was anti-DRM, and then now currently they're all fine with it, which is just so weird and hypocritical, isn't it?
It's cool that actually happened.
Yeah, they actually put it out.
I was right.
You were right. Again.
So Patrick, they've put out the...
You guys know I was right. I said this yesterday.
What'd you say?
That I'd heard they were going to put out a big statement fact thing about all this used game nonsense.
So Microsoft has officially put out a statement.
They put out 3 different pages on their new news site thing.
Uh-huh.
One is 3 titles. How games licensing works on Xbox One, a modern connected system, and how Xbox One and the new Kinect sensor put you in control. So there's your 3 pain points. The used game thing, the internet thing, and is the Kinect sensor going to stare at me while I am touching myself in front of my TV?
All right, what's the answer to that one, since that's the most pressing?
All right, well, yeah, we'll get the Kinect one out of the way. You were in control of what Kinect can see and hear. Key privacy options like automatic or manual sign-in. You are in control of when Kinect sensing is on, off, or paused. You are in control of your personal data. Data will not leave your Xbox One without your explicit permission. Here are a few examples of potential future scenarios. A fitness game could measure heart rate data to provide you with improved feedback on your workout, tracking progress, blah, blah, blah. A card game could allow you to bluff your virtual opponent using your facial expressions. All right. You can use other inputs to control your games, TV, and entertainment experiences. While Kinect is faster, you can use a controller. So
can I turn on my Xbox?
To watch television.
Can I use my...
All right, so there was a lot of confusion around it. They hyped it up a ton. That's for damn sure. The media was hyping it up like it was the end of the world. I mean, people, look, you have and I'm not saying this is okay to be snooping on people, obviously, and sell their information. I'm dealing with this right now when I use these different applications like Discord. They want you to put your sensitivity on your mic at 100%. And actually, a lot of times it'll change your mic settings automatically without you wanting it to even happen. It just does it. You know what that's for? That's for data collection, which is really effed up, isn't it? That's really messed up. And then they sell that information many times to like advertisers and who knows who else. But I mean, look right now, people, you have a camera that's on your phone. It's the same. That's less of a locked system than this Xbox. So everybody was all spooked out by this camera. They just were building up everything. This shit it was really crazy. But I don't agree with DRM. It's not right. But you guys seem to be okay with it, even though you pretended to hate it, right? Or a lot of people, not to say everybody, not all you guys. Some of you are intelligent, right? All right, so here you go. This is the Xbox, right? Xbox One 180. Microsoft ditches always on DRM. Lending restrictions. Yes. So they backtracked on most of this stuff, people, and they just kept backtracking on it. Sorry about that. They kept going back and removing a lot of these restrictions, maybe many of these restrictions that Sony still has, right? Okay, so I'm going to see what else I have here. Okay, we're gonna look at now. I think we're done talking about that. We're gonna go into another part of these the double standards. You want to say sorry, it's a little clunky. All right, so this video is all about the double standards and the lies, people. This has to do with the companies, these corporations, the media, and the fans as well, because they're the ones that pushed a lot of these narratives. They were some of the reasons why this stuff happened. So, 1 minute. Now we're going to be talking about during the 8th generation. There was a lot of talk about resolution. It was a big point. They made resolution into the biggest debate in the world, right? Which is funny because I remember when this PlayStation wasn't the most powerful console, it was all about the software. But like I said earlier, the Xbox had more software. The Xbox had more software than any of them because they had 3 generations. Even now they have more software because it plays many games from the original Xbox, the 360, and the Xbox One. Multiple generations of software. So they said and then they said it's not about graphics anymore. It's all about the games. But now it's about the graphics again with the PS5 Pro. It's kind of weird the way people flip-flop. All right, so it's all about the resolution when the PS4 was around. And the reason why they made this the main point was because the Xbox had issues many times getting to the native 1080p. So this was a huge a huge argument that this was the point that the media kept harping on, right? It was all about resolution. So it says here, and which is funny because the PlayStation 4 Pro or 5 Pro actually many times does not do 4K, and it doesn't even do 60 frames per second on a lot of titles. It's going to do well on some of them, or most of them probably, but not the whatever. That's a whole nother point, a whole nother argument. All right, it says Sony native 1080p allows you to be a better gamer. All right, this is what Sony said. Native 1080p allows you to be a better gamer. So this was the narrative because, like I said, the Xbox could not do this consistently. So the Sony needed all the help they could get, and they made it all about resolution. And my problem with this is that they were playing. This is what Sony likes to do. They like to play the fanboys against each other, and they want to make you feel like shit. Because this isn't fair that the media did this, right? Because there are Sony customers. I mean, there's Xbox customers, and there's Nintendo customers. Their games can't do 1080p, right? Many of the games didn't do it. So what? They're not. The PlayStation are better gamers, huh? Well, I mean, in that case, then I guess the PC players are the greatest gamers because they can do 4K, 8K, 14K, all that, right? All right, so look at it. It says Call of Duty Ghosts 720p versus 1080p resolution explained by Activision. Call of Duty Ghosts native 1080p on PS4, upscaled on Xbox One. Isn't that hilarious? They're not talking about upscaled, right? This was the thing. This 10 years ago, people. This was the 8th generation. This is what they hung their hat on. Oh, now it's all about native resolution, right? Because the PlayStation does it. What about now? Because I'm looking at the PS5 Pro. It has Horizon Zero Dawn on there. It's not native resolution. It's upscaled fake 4K. Right? There's tons of games that are on that system, the PS5 Pro, that are upscaled. Upscaled fake 4K and upscaled fake 8K. All right? So this is like I said, these are double standards. Then it was all about the native resolution, right? Now it's all about the fake resolution, the checkerboard rendering and all this other stuff. PS4 1080p, Xbox One 720p, next gen power struggle. PlayStation 4 versus Xbox One graphics, Call of Duty Ghosts gameplay, right? 1080p on the very bottom. PS4 1080p versus 720. They made it all. This was a big chunk of the generation till the Xbox put out the Xbox One X. This was the whole point. They put that out because they kept harping on it. They were also harping on, oh, well, as soon as they put the Xbox One X, all these people were saying, well, there's no games. They said, now it's not about resolution. Because keep in mind, people, PlayStation 4 had no games. So they had to hang their hat on anything they could. They had no games. They were dependent. They were obsessed with talking about indie games because they had nothing else. The PlayStation 4 came out and all it had was Knack and a game called, I don't even think it had The Order. I think The Order came out later on. And they had a game called Drive Club, which I think still also wasn't out. There really wasn't much software on the PS4 when it came out. So it had to be anything. All right.
What's up, everybody? Damon here with IGN News. Infinity Ward's executive producer Mark Rubin has explained why there is a disparity in the resolution of Call of Duty Ghosts on Xbox One, which runs at 720p, and PlayStation 4, which runs at 1080p. He says, we did our best to make the best looking game on each console, and making sure we nailed down 60 frames per second. That was a key pillar for us. There's no maliciousness, there's no specific reason why one's 720p, one's 1080p. That's just the way the optimization came out. To keep a smooth frame rate, we needed to be 720p on Xbox One. That being said, it is being upscaled to 1080p, so it is outputting 1080p on your TV, and for the most part, the game does look really good. Some people actually think the textures look a little bit nicer maybe on Xbox than they do on PS4. You'll hear a bunch of opinions back and forth, but that's all they really are. They're opinions. When asked if Xbox One would achieve 1080p with the next installment in the series, Rubin said, very possibly. Finally, he explains, the analogy I've used in several interviews is, the first game on a console is sort of like a first date. It's very awkward as you try to learn what each other's interests are. That's how making a new game on a console is.
All right, so once again, they made it all about the resolution. It was all about the resolution, baby.
Hello, it's Tom from Digital Foundry.
And it's Richard here.
So today we thought we'd look at a separate topic on Quantum Break which we didn't quite cover in our initial analysis, which is what is the game's native resolution. Now we've had a few discussions about this in office, and it seems there are a few factors in play here. Specifically that the game renders its effects at 720p, as we found out with the developer's SIGGRAPH report in 2015. Now in this we found out that the ambient occlusion effects and...
Alright people, so they were going fucking crazy, analyzing they were pixel counting everything on these systems. All the news sites were just pointing out constantly, 1080p, 1080p, 1080p. And the double standard is insane because like I said, when the Xbox Series Xbox One X came out, they just threw this whole narrative under the rug. It was insane overnight. Because I remember I loved, this was actually one of the most fanboy-filled nasty generations ever. This PlayStation 4 Xbox One generation. It was so negative. Like you would go into the comment sections of all the different sites, and it was just ridiculously negative. You would go into all the different game articles, and all they would do is tell you over and over again how you're an idiot for owning the Xbox One, right? That's crazy to do that. To do that to your readers, and that's why I think there was some weird stuff going on these big mainstream game sites that they were doing this. They were just harping on 1080p, 1080p. It was always the new Sony narrative, and then these review scores were just ridiculous. All right, we're gonna watch some more of this stuff about the resolution. All right, so now. This is when everything flip-flops here. This is when the PlayStation came out with the PS4 Pro, and it could never do native 4K. I mean, look, right now they're talking about 4K on the PS5, and it can't even do 4K like consistently. It's doing fake resolution all the time. But back in the 8th gen, this was it was all about the native resolution, bro.
Picking up that soft aesthetic that the film.
And it holds its frame rate as well, 30 frames per second, locked.
This might be my pick for the best 4K game of the bunch.
That's another funny thing that we're going to look at later, because now they flip-flopped and they made it where now the new standard was 60 frames per second, even though the Xbox was doing all these games in 60 frames and Sony's was doing them all in 30. They actually, if you guys really paid attention, the standard on the Xbox many times was 60 frames. It was like Forza was 60 frames, Gears of War was 60 frames, Halo became 60 frames. But then this generation, they put out, I think it was Starfield, and now it's not all about, it's now the standards become 60, even though with Sony it was 30, and they never complained about it once when all the games were 30. All right, but we're going to go into that later. Let's watch this.
Away, and it was really holding up well. And yeah, I mean, the more you play the game, the more action kicks off, and it holds its frame rate as well, 30 frames per second, locked.
This might be my pick for the best 4K game of the bunch. We've got about 5 listed here, 6 actually. Mainly because it was trying to emulate the CG look that the...
All right, now we're gonna now they're gonna go and they're gonna beat around the bush, right? This video is all about the PS4 Pro and its improvements, because the big thing that the PS4 Pro promised was 4K, and it couldn't do it. So this game has a soft image. So now this guy's gonna go, oh, it has that nice like blurry, soft look to it, right?
Film had, because it released, of course, with the film next beside it, and it does a great job of picking up that soft aesthetic that the film also has. So kudos to it. I think it.
Keep in mind, this site, even though I do like Digital Foundry, but I didn't like a lot of the stuff they were doing here. I don't know if they got paid by Sony, or I don't know what's going on, but they always framed soft image in a negative. But now in this case, it's a positive.
It looks smashing on a 4K TV, even though it isn't a truly native picture.
Yep.
It has a lot of techniques which back it up and sort of reinforce its claim as a...
Yes, you went and you bought a PS4 Pro, which I think was like $400 or $500, and you didn't even get a native resolution, which was the whole point of purchasing the system in the first place.
A worthwhile contender for 4K TVs.
It's a tentpole title for the PlayStation 4 Pro, no doubt about it, highly recommended. And the same 4K upscaling technique will be used in Insomniac's next game, which is the Spider-Man title.
Yeah, should be good.
Yes.
Yeah, they went from hating, everybody called, in this generation, everyone was calling, you saw it, the 720p that was on the Xbox was upscaled to 1080p. In this case, Sony's doing fake resolution. 1080p upscaled to all the way up to 4K, which is extremely fake, people. That's not a real thing. That always looks like trash. You're better off just having native 1080p. I don't know, people. Upscaling just does not look as good as native resolution. This is why that's the gold standard, is native resolution, right? This whole thing about AI upscaling and all that, it does not look as good in motion as the real deal. It doesn't.
Screenshots of that have been looking good, so expecting big things there. Okay, so next one.
Next up is The Last of Us, which happened to be the first game I tried on the screen, native 4K. Obviously, there's a lot of last-gen titles which have transferred pretty seamlessly to 4K, just upscaling to that resolution without.
Yes, it's a PS3 game, people. And again, they charge people for this. Sony, why can't you let us play PS3 games natively? Why can't you do that? Xbox did it. You guys can't figure it out? They're doing this on the PC. Regular people in their free time are going and programming these emulators. They got this PS4 Pro, PS5 Pro. I heard it's equivalent to like at the most, I think they said it was like they're saying different numbers, 70 card, or like and I've even heard numbers as high as it's similar to like a 4070 card. You can't emulate PS3 games at their native resolutions at least. You know, they should be able to do this, people. You the real hardcore Sony fanboys should be pushing for this. It's like, Sony, where the fuck are the native stuff? Your competition got it where you could just pop a Xbox 360 game in the system right now. You guys know on the Xbox, you can actually play the Halo Master Chief Collection like on like 4 different generations of Xbox. You can actually do like a system link that goes as far as the original Xbox. You can system link that to a 360 and then to an Xbox One and then to a Series console. And it works. I think you can even put it together with the PC and play a big LAN party on this system that's that old. Isn't that crazy? This is the kind of stuff they do. Why aren't you guys asking for more out of Sony? I remember back in the day, Sony was doing a great job. They were putting out, like when they put out the PS1, all the wires on that thing in the back were all standard wires you could buy from a regular Radio Shack or corner store. They were just regular standard video cables. No like, proprietary, however you say that. It wasn't some weird cable where you could only buy it from Sony. Also, Sony kept doing backwards compatibility. The PlayStation 2 was compatible with the PS1. You could just put the disc right in the system. The PS2 originally was compatible with the PS1. The PS3 originally was compatible with the PS2 and the PS1. And I don't even know if the PS4 actually can play any past generations. I don't think it could play PS1, PS2, nothing. You can't put those discs in there. And then now you got a PS5. Can you put a PS1 game into a PS5? I've never tried it, but actually we just read it. It plays none of them. What happened, Sony? What happened? They were doing backwards compatibility. Why did this end? Why can't I take, and people, if you know, software emulation for PS2, PS1, it's actually really good. It's I could play PS2, PS1 games on my Xbox Series X console, and they look amazing. So what the hell is up with Sony?
Without losing anything in terms of frame rate. So this is among them. I mean, you get two modes, of course. There's the 60 FPS mode and 30 FPS mode.
1800p at 60 FPS.
Yeah, I'd say both hold up pretty well. There are some aliasing issues still because I think the lighting buffer has a different method for outputting.
All right, so you had to buy that. That's the Last of Us remaster. I've never finished it on the PS4 or 5. I finished it on the PS3 originally. It's people, come on. You got the competitions over here letting you put the disc in the system and it just gets upgraded. You could put old Xbox games into your Xbox right now, original Xbox games, and they get HDR and 4K updates automatically. That's crazy, isn't that? But the competition, what are they doing? They're charging you again for this game instead of just letting you play these games natively. But it is a native game. It's a remaster, as they call it, right? But the competition, you got people. They got to be competitive. You can't let them get away with this. They have to be competitive. Their competition are letting you just literally go to a freaking flea market, go to a flea market, go to mom and pop shop, find a disc under the couch. You just you want to clean it off first, and you pop that into your Xbox. This old game. right? The game you bought from a quarter from the mom and pop shop, you pop it in your Xbox and it just works. And it's 20 years old, you know? It's a 20-year-old game, Xbox classic game, 360 game. Yeah, this is the way it should be, right? If I get a DVD, like if you look at an Xbox plays DVDs. A PS5 plays DVDs. So why don't you play these older games that I've already purchased? Why? Because you want to charge me again. That's probably what it is. Or you just don't give a shit and you want us to buy the current stuff, right? And just leave that other stuff in the past. But that's not the way it works, people. You want to respect. This is an art form. So, you know, just like books and just like film, just because the game came out 20 years ago, 30 years ago, doesn't mean that it's not it might be a great piece of art that you want to experience. So to make it disappear like this is not cool. All right? I don't think it's cool. All right. So the next funny thing that happened, all right, we're going to go through is how 40 frames per second became okay. 40 frames per second. I remember Digital Foundry, they said some negative things about the Xbox. Let's watch this. All right, so we're going to skip ahead a little bit because I didn't edit this video. First of all, of course, the resolution, right? This is what they always had to harp on, the resolution.
The image. Yes, that's right. It relies on the same 1080p target as a base Xbox One, but with dynamic scaling very occasionally pulling the horizontal res downward based on load. It's rare that it does this, and X offers an improvement over the lowest figure on the base model for sure, which was 1024 by 1080. Xbox One X gets to a full HD more consistently, but that's all you can say for it. Clearly it's only inherited the max upper bounds of the regular machine, and the GPU tops out at pushing 1920 by 1080, which is hugely disappointing.
All right, so they do 1080p, and now it's disappointing that they do 1080p because they were expecting 4K. Fake 4K, because look, the competition's doing fake 4K. That's what they're doing.
Needless to say, Arkham Asylum's
the competition people was doing 1080p, sometimes lower than 1080p, and then saying it was 1440p, when in reality it was 900p, checkerboarded up to a fake 1440p, which looked like trash.
Massively underutilizing the strength of X hardware. Yes, the pixel count is rising by as much as 87.
But this is kind of always how it works when it comes to the competition, Sony's competition. The standards for the competition is way higher than the standards for Sony. Sony gets away with all kinds of dirty stuff because the standard for Sony is low. For the competition, it's always high, especially for the Xbox. It's always got to be, oh, well, look, Sony did this game at 1080p, so the Xbox got to do 4K or, you know, or 1440p, something like that.
% from the base console, but still, that's a 1.31 teraflop GPU versus a 6 teraflop model. The scope of improvement versus a 6 teraflop model.
So the standards, once again, the standards are much higher, right? Keep in mind, there's so many games on the Pro that they improved nothing. The PS5 right now, there are loads. Basically, the entire collection of PS4 games have almost no upgrades. Unless it had, you know, an uncapped frame rate. And then, yes, they'll run better on the PS5. But most of the games, they didn't upgrade anything.
The scope of improvement is meager in that context, and price-wise too. You're paying £450 or $485 for...
I hope they got the same energy for that PS5 Pro, people. Do you think they're gonna be pointing out the price? Oh, you spent all this money. Oh, the standards. Why is Until Dawn only still 1080p? Right? That kind of thing. Oh, why is this game not even 1080p? People, they got games on the PS4 Pro that aren't not even close to 4K. And these guys aren't coming with this kind of negativity. This is why I said double standards.
Of improvement is meager in that context, and price-wise too. You're paying £450 or $485 for Xbox One X, often advertised for its ability to support 4K. You will see an improvement next to the base Xbox One.
Well, I know that the PS5 Pro is advertising 8K. You know that? 8K. So when games aren't doing 4K, what are you going to say? Do you think they're going to have the same energy?
For sure. But what you get is broadly on par with PS4 Pro's image quality in most scenes. And worse
protecting Sony's investments, right? Oh, it's on par with the PS4 Pro. Go buy a PS4 Pro. Don't buy this thing. It's not about resolution anymore. Oh, yeah.
Still, Arkham Asylum is the least demanding of the two games, with lots of interior areas helping to keep it at that 1080p target. It's not the case for the more ambitious Arkham City, as I'll cover later. Resolution is one thing, but surely there's visual upgrades besides that. Well, no again. In terms of textures, shadows and effects, the X model just takes what the regular Xbox One pushed out and presents it all at a slightly upgraded picture quality. It's a shame because there was a real opportunity here too. This Return to Arkham package never saw a PC release, and so X gave us the best chance of seeing settings pushed further afield.
Alright, so there's just, like I said, the standards are just through the roof. When it comes to the competition, the standards are low. They don't expect them to do anything. Oh wow, this PS3 game looks sharp. This PS3 game looks sharp on the PS4 Pro, right? Okay, let's watch this. Now we're gonna look at the frame rate. You're gonna find something funny here. Watch.
But it's not ideal. To recap, there's been no updates beyond the 1.02 patch on PS4 consoles or Xbox One, which had both games capped at 30 FPS. But for X support today, Arkham Asylum is uniquely set with a 45 FPS ceiling. That's the best case, and even if you're looking up at the sky, the game will always keep a full 60Hz out of reach. 45 FPS is an odd number to pick. While 45 sounds better than 30, in practice it's not great to look at. With most TVs designed to accept Xbox One X's signal as a 60Hz feed, frames are divided unevenly. So for example...
Alright, so you hear what they say. You want to know why the reason they made it 45 and they locked it to 45. They did that because when you put that on, you use, what do you call it, FreeSync or G-Sync, it looks smooth. Also, 45 looks better than, it does look sharp. It looks smoother, people. It looks a lot smoother than 30. It does. Okay? All right, so we're going to see how they changed their energy. Now, that video you just saw was about 5 years ago. I think it was 5. It might have been more. I think it was around 5. All right? Okay, it might have been more because it has to be more because these new consoles have been around for what, almost 5 years now? So that video is, I think, about 6 years old. All right, so this is from a couple of months ago. You see this? Let's zoom in on this. Look at that. This is the same site. Not to harp, to destroy Digital Foundry. I like some of their analysis. They seem like some nice guys, but whatever contracts they got going on over there are biased. Maybe they're Sony fanboys. I don't know. So you got here, Ratchet and Clank PS5, why the 40 FPS mode is a big deal. Now 45 is good, right? It's better than 45. Now 40 is better than 45? Is that how it works? Keep in mind, people usually, they say the sweet spot is 45, and then you put the FreeSync on it. Not 40, 45. And that says, why Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart's 40 frame per second fidelity mode is a big deal for consoles. Now it's a big deal, right, when Sony does it. PS5 Pro CPU. If 60 FPS is off the table, how about 40 frames per second? And they're talking about this for the PS5 Pro, 40 frames. Are you kidding me? And you want to talk about Xbox? Oh, you spent $500 and you're not even getting an upgrade. I'm going to spend $500 for 40 frames, people. And it says, why don't more games support 40 frames per second? Why don't we see more 40 frames per second modes in console games? So now it's a good thing, right? But when the Xbox did, I guess they were innovators, right? They were ahead of their time. Is that what happened? All right, let's see this. We got a video here.
Hello there and welcome to a very different video here from Digital Foundry. So last week, Insomniac
like I told you people, this is all about the double standards. All about the double standards.
Games patched Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart on PlayStation 5, and one of the new features that was added is rather fascinating. You have the ability to switch the game from 60 to 120 Hz on compatible monitors, and when you do that, when you adjust the...
Fun fact, people, guess what? When they did that 45 frame per second mode on the 45 on the Xbox One X, guess what you could do? You can actually put 120 Hertz mode on your Xbox One. And it was intended to be used in exactly the way they're saying right here. You think they didn't know this? They knew this. But they said, oh, look, it doesn't look right. It doesn't look right. Yeah? Really? Okay. We know, bro. We know what you're doing. They were doing this. They did this 6 years before Sony did it. They were way ahead of them. But now this is a revolution. When Sony does it, oh, now it's the revolution. Oh, this is a game changer.
Fidelity mode, the target frame rate changes from 30 frames per second to 40 frames per second. And the question is, why is Insomniac doing that? What is the benefit to the gamer? And how does it look and how does it play? And to talk to me about it, John Linneman.
Rich, yeah, this is something I really want to talk about because I believe we've discussed this on DF Direct before, and it's kind of a big deal. I think this is something that could be.
It's a big deal, guys. It's a good thing. It's a good thing now. Wait. Let's see this other thing again for a second. Sorry. I gotta go. I wish I would have edited this together. This is all. I'm doing it live, people. I'm doing it effing live. Let's see a little more of this.
Well, potentially, and the fix would be easy enough if another patch is coming. As it stands, it's an anomaly, but there is actually a possible benefit to this if you have the right kit.
Now they do bring up the FreeSync, but they brought it up originally in a negative. It's completely negative.
Delivered over a 60 Hz signal.
So I'm not going to show. They talk about the FreeSync, but they make it like it's rare. But keep in mind, you know how many people play on PC monitors? This was not a weird case.
Games capped at 30 FPS, but for X support today, Arkham Asylum is uniquely set with a 45 FPS ceiling. That's the best case, and even if you're looking up at the sky, the game will always keep a full 60 Hz out of reach. 45 FPS is an odd number to pick. While 45 sounds better than 30, in practice it's not great to look at. With most TVs designed to accept Xbox One X's signal as a 60 Hz feed, frames are divided unevenly. So for example, a regular 30 FPS game delivered over a 60 Hz signal will alternate between a unique and duplicate frame.
All right, we get it. It's all negative, and then they bring up that example. It's the same thing on the PlayStation, right? Wait, sorry about that, people. I wasn't supposed to do that.
Be really useful for many other games going forward, targeting higher fidelity visuals.
It's a revolution, guys. It's a revolution. Sony, once again, I guess they're late to the show, huh?
Useful for many other games going forward, targeting on DF Direct before, and it's kind of a big deal. I think this is something that could be really useful for many other games going forward, targeting higher fidelity visuals at the expense of, going for 60 FPS. And today I think we can actually sort of help shine a light on why this is a big deal.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So I think first of all, we kind of need to
All right, so we're not going to watch the whole thing, but I think it's just very comical. It's very comical that they shit on this game, right? They said all this stuff, but now when Sony's doing it, it's a revolution. Hey, everybody, look, 40 frames. It's like, really? But you were saying the other one was just like trash, basically. And I know they went into the example about the FreeSync monitor, but they made it all negative, and they're like, oh, well, in the off chance that you own one of these FreeSync monitors, even though everyone's got this mode now, anybody who has a PS5, so they future-proofed it, right? You can just say that. Or maybe they said in the case of like if you're playing on a 60-frame monitor, and that's what they're saying. They're assuming that everybody's just going to play their games on a standard, regular TV. And yeah, I guess in that case, it's 45 frames. It's not completely even. But I play it on my Steam Deck. I play games at 45 frames, and the Steam Deck does not have FreeSync. And it looks great. It looks smoother. The 45 frames look smoother. Like I was playing, today I was playing this new boxing game, Undisputed, on my Steam Deck at 45 frames. And it looked great. 45 looks smooth. It looks better than 30. So this whole thing of, it just doesn't look as good. Dude, it looks faster. It looks close to 60 because it is. It's closer to 60 than 30. It's a locked 45 frames. All right? Okay. All right, so that's the double standard. There's some double standards there. And there's many other double standards. All right? We're going to look at this double standard here. This is going to be we're going to be showing a lot of these reviews. There was a lot of interesting reviews, and I don't think I trust a lot of them. I think a lot of these sites are struggling, these gaming sites, and they need to do anything they can in order to make the bucks. And there's been studies done that show that these reviews actually do equal sales. And when the rival company is putting out their games, they want to make your system look like shit. So they're going to take all your big titles and they're going to tell these guys, most likely, or these guys' employers, to, Come on, man. Don't, see the competition's games in a negative light. That's a really important thing for us. Can you do that for us, guys? All right, so here we got a review for, this is Halo 2. This is the Master Chief Collection. So this is the good, right? The game got a 6, fair. The Master Chief Collection, people. This has got to be one of the most amazing collections in gaming, right? Anybody that loves first-person shooters would love this. Not everyone, but, I guess they got the perfect reviewer to do this one. And it says the good. Core combat formula is engaging throughout every campaign. Okay, because there's Master Chief Collection, they kept working on it. And it's free, people. This is an amazing collection. This has 6 games on it. And multiple versions of each game. And they run at 4K, 120 frames, HDR, full-on remakes. 100% from the ground up, new CGI. They must have poured millions and millions and millions of dollars into this. And they have the nerve to give this thing a 6. The core combat formula is engaging throughout every campaign. New Halo 2 anniversary cutscenes are fantastic. Slick, intuitive menu organization. That's a weird good. Really? That's a really weird good. The menus, you factored in the menus. What about the story? Look at this here. It says cutscenes are fantastic. The Halo 2 anniversary, they recreated the entire game from the ground up, people. All the geometry, all the textures, all the effects, all the music, everything. And they have the nerve to just say, oh, well, the cinematics are cool. And then the bad online multiplayer barely works. Keep in mind, on the first day, they had some issues. And this game actually has online. A lot of it, people. All the games went online. You know how many maps that is? This was 5 games that all went online. And they all have, everything is upgraded. This is a ridiculously good collection. And the only bad they say is the online 6. They make it fair. It's fair 6. That's not fair. To me that's a ridiculous review. For the amount for this to give Halo, they gave Halo no respect. This game is one of the most influential games in the history of gaming, and you're going to give it a 6? Without Halo, you wouldn't have. You wouldn't have a lot of the features you find in games like Last of Us and Uncharted. Where do you think the energy system comes from in all your games you love, like games like Uncharted or games like Call of Duty, And this is just one part of talking about. You have your primary and your secondary weapons. That comes from Halo that you find these games. The grenade tosses with the different button triggers, the way you aim, the way you zoom in. The energy system, again, how your energy recharges, right? That game, every game before Halo, they were using the old Nintendo Atari system of getting energy packs, eating chicken around the map. When Halo came out, in order to do the pacing, to make it smooth, a smooth transition, a smooth progression through the game, your energy would just boost back up when you would go hide away. There's so many innovations that came from Halo. And so to just... Even online stuff, the matchmaking, so many things, people. It's insane. So here is the Uncharted collection. This is, I think this is actually, let me see. Okay, I think this is the new, I just want to make sure this is the right thing. It says here, a vivid sweeping, this is the Uncharted Nathan Drake collection. This is a game that they actually removed. Sony removed the co-op and the online. They removed some of the stuff I enjoyed the most, and I really liked Uncharted. I love the series, but they removed all these things that I loved about it. They took the 3D support out of the third game, which I thought was amazing. The 3D was great, and then they took the co-op out and the online. This is a collection. I'm comparing this to the Halo Master Chief Collection, where they had the online, and the people, it's fixed. It works perfect. It's worked perfect for many years. Them saying it barely worked is just, it worked. It worked. It just was fucked up at the time. That happens, bugs. That's a whole collection of games. Every single one of them had single player campaigns. You're just 6. All right, so it says vivid, sweeping stories with grand cinematic scope. Endearing, versatile characters with complex relationships. This is the good. I mean, it was like a movie review. Fine-tuned set pieces in vibrant locations across the world. All right, so let me just zoom in a little more. It says masterful pacing in Uncharted 2 and 3. finer details, and smoother frame rates. And then the bad, Uncharted Drake's Fortune has not aged well, making a third of the collection a slog. I actually liked Uncharted 1. I do. They just didn't like it probably because it's not filled with fucking storyline. That's what it is. Yes, I guess a slog because there's a lot, because I guess they don't like playing video games, right? Because there's a lot more combat in the first game than there is in the other ones. And yeah, there's a lot of enemies. It's like waves and waves and waves. And then at the bottom it says this is the bad. Disconnect between the gameplay and tone of the story that, while not jarring, feels more pronounced by modern standards. A disconnect between the tone of the story. So I think what they're talking about is the killing, that you're shooting all these dudes. Maybe that's what it is. Disconnect between the gameplay and the tone of the story. Yeah. And then you want to know why it's like that? Because Uncharted, at the time, there was other review sites that actually called Uncharted Gears Raider, like a mixture of Tomb Raider and Gears of War, which is what Uncharted was. Uncharted is another game that's been inspired by games like Gears of War, the sticky cover system, and I understand Kill Switch did it, but Gears of War is the one that really refined all this stuff, right? They're the ones that brought it home. They made the cover system, they perfected it, and Uncharted took loads of ideas from Gears of War. But again, 8. It got an 8, people. It only has 3 games. They only run in 1080p. The Master Chief Collection was doing 4K, 100 and whatever frames. This game never did 120 frames. Right now, Halo on the Xbox Series X and the S, there's 120 frames with HDR support. All these resolution bumps. They added more titles to it. They put other Halo games in the collection. They did all kinds of stuff. And they didn't remove anything. They added stuff to it. They got the co-op. They got the single. They got the couch co-op. They got the online co-op. They got the multiplayer. They got it all. What did Sony do here? They removed everything. They removed the 3D support. They removed the online, and they removed the co-op. And what do they get? They get an 8. Like I told you, double standards, right? The competition, the standards are so high for Sony's competitors. And keep in mind, these games came out around the same time. So they're making the competition look like shit, right? That's what they're doing. Anything these guys put out, Sony puts out, is looked at as gold, even though they're giving you a lesser product than the competition. And I'm seeing this trend a lot. We're probably going to continue seeing it when the competition, the Xbox, puts out their next console, which is probably going to be superior to the PS5 Pro for sure. All right. All right. So I'm going to see what else we have going on here. 1 second. Let's listen to some Sneaker Pimps, some sad music. Or no, we're listening to Streets of Rage, some 8-bit sad music, people, for all the Sony fanboys. But this isn't about hating Sony, people. Like I said, I really enjoyed the PlayStation. It was one of my favorite systems growing up as a little kid. And then, and I liked the PlayStation brand. They did some good stuff, but their leadership's pretty shitty. And then the gaming community that supports and allows these guys to be motherfucking hypocrites. It's not okay, people. It's not effing okay. And you know what's also not okay? Not subscribing to the Futv, people. The real Futv. The greatest channel on demand, people. Remember to subscribe. We work really hard over here, people. We really do. Harder than probably any other channel in the world. You're watching Not For The Players. This is a Futv exclusive. This is a investigation into mostly the 8th generation of consoles. But this stuff still continues to today. It's still going on. We're going to look at some more of these double standards right now. I've shown this one on an Uncharted video I did a few days ago. I was also pointing out a lot of the bullshit, a lot of the BS that Sony was engaging in. So, this was the Uncharted, the Legacy of Thieves collection, where they took the online out. And I pointed that out in another video I did on this channel, like I said, that points out how you need to own both versions of this game in order to get the full package. And you really still don't get the full package because the online, you can't get 120 frames in it. You also can't get 4K. You also can't get well, I guess you could get HDR. Sony just loves fucking over their consumer. This is a double standard, people, and they never point it out, so I'm going to do it. The supposed game journalists don't point it out. They don't. So we got to get the real journalists in here. And that's me. I'm the real deal, people. Sorry about that sound. I wish I didn't make that sound. All right, over here we have the what is this? This was the factions mode for Last of Us. I guess Sony doesn't like you guys playing online games. They don't like us playing anything online. They removed this mode. They told everyone it was coming out in 2023 and then they scrapped it. No faction modes for you guys. Nope. None. No more factions mode, but it's okay because it's Sony. They can go and just remove all the onlines out of all the games, huh? Why? I wish that wouldn't do that sound. All right. Sony has, this is about Little Big Planet. No more Little Big Planet online, right? Sony confirms Little Big Planet 3 shut down. Okay, this was a few months after it was released. Sony has indefinitely shuttered the online servers for PlayStation 4 platformer Little Big Planet 3, months after it claimed it temporarily took the game offline while it resolved technical issues. So they straight up fucking lied to you. They told all the people that purchased this game that, oh, it's just some technical issues, we're taking it offline. And then, by the way, it's not going back online. Thank you, guys. For the players, huh? Thank you very much there, Sony. We love you. Okay. This is more stuff about the, this is a question I asked Google. Hey, can I play these games on my PlayStation 4? The short answer is no. PlayStation 4 is not backwards compatible with PlayStation 3 games. Inserting a PS3 disc into the PS4 will not work, and you cannot download digital versions of PS3 games from the PlayStation Store onto your PlayStation 4. See, people, this is the issue. This is a big issue. When you purchase all those games on your PS3, it really, the ideal thing would be for it to go into the next console, but, you know, it didn't. It didn't. They didn't try. They didn't try to do it, and they didn't try it with the They didn't try it with the PS5, and they're not trying it with the PS5 Pro either. And so the Xbox is going to keep pushing forward, putting these games on there, and Sony's going to keep not doing that. I think they're not going to. They don't care because you don't hold their feet to the fire, so they're able to just do whatever the f they want. All right, this is 12 August 2022. On 12 August 2022, online servers for Killzone Mercenaries, Killzone Shadowfall, including intercept mode and rigs. So basically, people, look, they had a mode on Killzone. This is the other game, Rigs. I think that's I think it's a VR game. They removed all the onlines. People, I have a PS5 right now. I'm actually going to play. I want to complete Killzone Shadowfall on here because on the PS5 it runs perfect. It runs locked 60 frames. That's great. I wish they would have freaking upgraded it. 60 frames. Maybe make it 100 frames, 120. Make it 4K. Can you please do that for free? No, bro. We're not gonna do that. We don't fucking respect you. You gave us all this money, but we're not gonna respect your fandom, right? That you like these games. Oh, we don't give a shit, right? This is how Sony rolls, and this is why I don't think anybody should buy that PS5 Pro. Even if that thing was perfect, you have to rely on Sony to upgrade those games, and they're gonna nickel and dime your ass, most likely, or they're not gonna do it at all. So you're gonna literally go out and spend another $700. Or for the first time, spend $700 on a PS5, and they're not even going to upgrade a lot of these games. Most of them will not be upgraded. Yes, some of them will get the regular upgrade if they had an unlocked frame rate or a dynamic resolution. They'll possibly run at the top of those dynamic resolutions, possibly. It's not a definite, but most of those games will not be upgraded. For example, right now you got Titanfall, right? Titanfall 2 on your PS5. It runs at PlayStation 4 Pro settings, so this is sub, I think it's sub 1440p. And then when it goes to the supposed 1440p, it's a fake 1440p. It's checkerboard rendering. And then on top of that, it has lower res textures and lower res geometry. It only does 60 frames. If you play that same game on the Xbox, it actually does a resolution, I think, as high as 6K. It goes above 4K, the resolution on there, because they uncapped the resolution on there. And then they basically brought all these settings from the PC. It's got all the shadow detail, the textures, everything. And then when they brought this game to the Xbox, the new Xbox Series X, guess what? The game now runs with dynamic resolution. Not dynamic resolution. It has HDR. It has HDR support now. It runs at, like I said, at a 6K. and it runs at 120 frames. So while this version is running at 120 frames, it was uncapped on, it was actually, they did that when they brought it to the Xbox. That runs at 120 with all the high settings. And, you know, that's what you're getting. You're getting this really good, probably the greatest console version of Titanfall. And it was free. You didn't pay for it. And they updated it. On the Sony side, it's still 60 frames and that fake 1440p. Sony never upgraded it. So why are you going to trust these guys and go out and buy that freaking PS5 Pro? Because they got to unlock all these games. So now we're going to look at this, all right? I know I'm going off, but that's what I'm doing through this whole stream, people. I'm just going to rant. This is what I do. It says, well, I just read it. What the fuck? Am I going to go back and read it again? They took all the freaking online out. You know what would be awesome? If I was able to play Killzone Shadowfall online right now where it's locked 60 frames. Because on the original system, it wasn't. It was all over the place, people. It was all over. On the PS4, the frame rate was all messed up. I think online, it was like 30 frames. I could be wrong on that, but I think it was 30 frames. It was kind of sluggish. Now, it's still kind of sluggish. It's a heavy... I kind of like that about Killzone, that the weapons and everything feel heavy. It plays different. It feels different from Call of Duty. But I can't play it online now. No online. And people purchased that co-op mode of Killzone Online. And guess what? It doesn't work anymore. So you got all these achievement scores in this fucking game, and you can't even play it online anymore. Again, and also, there's no online co-op. There's no co-op at all in Sony games. Like, the standard, you know, like I said, the standards are different. The Xbox is co-op on, like, everything. Sony doesn't. They have fake co-op. They have God of War with the little boy, and then you got Last of Us with the little girl, and you never control anything. You see these characters, but you don't control any of them. Okay. So here we go, 2018. Don't expect to hop online for some multiplayer action. It says Killzone 2 and Killzone 3 servers were shut down in 2018. They shut those down too, people. Did you know that, and I said this in another video, did you know you can actually go, and I'm sorry I keep harping on this, but I have to point this out. This is a double standard. Sony can get away with just taking things from the game, from their community. Constantly taking things away. So, on the Xbox, you can actually play all the Gears of War games online and co-op. So that's Gears of War 1, Gears of War 2, Gears of War 3, Gears of War 4, Gears of War, what's the other one? The other one that no one liked. I forgot the name of it. There was another Gears of War. It was a side thing that I think takes place before the first game. Judgment. Gears of War Judgment. You can play that one online too. You can play that, like all of them online right now. All those Xbox 360 games go online. They have not removed the online, and they all play online. And in many cases, they actually been updated for free to run at 60 frames. And they have HDR support. Some of them have 4K support. Like the Gears of War 2, I'm going to play that on this channel, on the Series X, because it looks amazing. It's 4K now, and I think it runs at 60 frames. Part 3 is also 60. They uncapped them, and they all run online. What is going on with Sony that they're allowed to get away with this? They just give you such an inferior product, right? And they talk, oh, it's the greatest one ever, the greatest system ever. All right, here we go. Here's some other stuff. I don't know if this is the right thing. Okay, right here it says, I know you don't like it when games don't come on a disc, but how do you feel about the PS5 disc drive not being able to work without an internet first? All right, so this is about the thing I told you about earlier. This is the DRM. Without the internet, you cannot play those games on your PS5 Pro, right? If you have this drive, you cannot use it without being connected to the internet, right? So all these things need to check. They need to be checked through the internet. So everything you hated the Xbox for, Sony is doing. All right, so you don't have a reason to hate the Xbox for anymore, even though they're for preservation many times. Their leadership on the Xbox division is for, in a lot of ways, for game preservation, even though they're also doing a lot of this DRM bullshit. Completely, they're doing it, for sure. But they were in the beginning, they were up front with it, where Sony is very deceptive. They're not telling you, they're lying. Oh, we're for you guys, we're for the players. All right, Uncharted Nathan Drake Collection removes multiplayer on PS4. We went over this. They just love removing the online. They don't give a fuck if their fan base loves this online. They're getting rid of it. Right? They got billions and billions and billions of dollars they took in FIFA. They can't even allow you to keep the online. I'm pretty sure soon they're going to take it away from Uncharted 4 as well, I bet. Any day now we'll probably hear an announcement they're removing the online for Uncharted 4. All right. So here's some more stuff about resolution. People, this is all about the double standards, right? Starfield, Bethesda's up-and-coming sci-fi RPG epic will be locked to 30 FPS on Xbox Series X. So this is more of the harping on, it's the hardware, because the Xbox Series X was advertised as the world's most powerful console. So of course they're going to come in and they're going to try to shit on it, right? Even though this game is very sophisticated, it probably couldn't even run on a PS5. But they got to shit on it because they say it's 30 frames. From what I heard, they said they were going to uncap it and they were going to make it, I think, 60. But they said they wanted it to just be, the best fidelity they can get. So they made it 30. Sounds similar to Sony, right? Sony, they had, what was it? They had Last of Us, which was originally 30 frames, right? It's 30 frames. On the PS4, they did have, but that was a PS3 game, people. But most of the Sony games, the standard is 30 frames. They were doing 30 on like everything. It was never a problem, but now when the competition is doing it, it's a problem. This is talking about the thing I told you about earlier. Xbox came in and they uncapped frame rates for 74 games in a single day. They also added much more games to the list. They added where you got over here, Microsoft is enabling its Xbox FPS boost mode on 74 more games today, bringing the total up to 97 games titles. So in that one day, 74 games got boosts in frame rates. There's tons of games one day, and they just threw this at us randomly, right? As an owner of this console, that's really cool, especially if you don't own a PC. That's awesome, right? They just got that update out of nowhere. Now all these games you have now run at 60 or in some cases 120 frames. That game, there's this game Mad Max that on the PS4 and the Xbox One, it runs at 30 frames. Only 30, right? That game right now plays on the PS4. Obviously, it was released on the PS4 and the Xbox One and PC. That game currently runs at 30 frames per second on the PS4 and the PS5. And on the Pro, I'm going to make a wild guess, it's still going to be 30 frames on that system as well. On the Xbox Series consoles, that game runs at 120 frames, Mad Max. 120, and it's got HDR support, right? Once again, you go and buy that PS5 Pro, you ain't getting none of those upgrades. The only place you're going to get that is on a PC or an Xbox. That's it. They're not going to go and do that work. Sony's not doing that. That's why I would never buy a PS4 Pro. PS5 Pro, even if I didn't own a PC, I wouldn't be doing it because I know how they roll. Standards are different, people. Low standards. It's low standards. Speaking to GamePro, it says Mark Slater. It says this is about Hellblade. Sorry, I'm not going to read all this stuff here. It says Hellblade. Xbox fail. This is about 30 frames. Again, like I said, they're harping on 30 frames. Now 30 frames is a bad thing, right? Keep in mind, this is the new Unreal Engine. What we've been seeing for the last couple of years when it comes to these new consoles, we're kind of old now. They're almost 5 years old, which is crazy to think. These consoles really did not see new engines. This is why people are locked on this whole idea of 60 frames. These systems are now starting to see the real next generation. And so games like Hellblade. Hellblade is 30 frames. Why? Because it's a sophisticated title. It's running on a new engine. It's got tons of stuff going on, all this graphical stuff. So it's gone back to what used to be the standard. That's one of the benefits of the console, people. You know that? They build it to the metal, as they say. So you're going to get 30 frames. Yeah, it's going to be like a lock 30. But you're going to get that piece of hardware is going to get pushed to the max, right? That's the whole thing. And this is the thing about the PC is that you buy these crazy graphics cards, but there's a ton of overhead. So what people do is they push the game to 120 frames or 200, 300 frames. They put 4K. You do all this stuff to trick it out. But in the end, that game you're playing on the super high-end PC was built for a baseline of an Xbox Series X or a PS5. But that's not a bad thing because they're actually building it for a good piece of hardware. The Xbox and the PlayStation. So they build that to the metal and then it goes to the PC. But they built to the metal. So a lot of times the consoles are they're the biggest. This is where most of the money comes from. So what happens is that they kind of like step the bar up. So when the bar goes up, the PC goes up as well. Because Horizons, and even in some cases, Uncharted looks better than most PC games. So they're building. None of these games are going to be built for your, $12, $2,000, $3,000 computer. The only way those settings go up, the bar, is when the consoles do it. So the consoles are now finally stepping the bar up, and now we're getting stuff like this, and it's going to be at 30 frames. Why? Because it's the next gen. Now it's the next gen. Now you're actually seeing the next generation, and you saw it with the Starfield, and you're going to see it with Grand Theft Auto, with the next Grand Theft Auto probably. There's nothing wrong with this, people. You want 60 frames, get a PC. There you go. That's just the way it is. If you want to get 60 on every freaking console game, you're going to be playing games from the PS4, Xbox One generation. That's it. You know? And one of the reasons probably why this game is running at 30 frames is because of CPU limitations. I mean, it could be one of the reasons. But I just think it's funny that everyone's now harping on 30 frames. What are you talking about, bro? Didn't you guys all say that, oh my God, Uncharted is amazing. Oh, it's the greatest game ever made. GTA is the greatest game. GTA has been at 30 frames forever. For probably what? GTA has been around for what, 30 years or something? I don't even know. It's been around forever, it seems like. It's got to be over 20 years. Maybe even 30 years, right? GTA, what did that come out? Like 2000 and... it's got to be over 20. It's definitely over 20 damn years. And it's been 30 frames for years. So it was never a problem. Okay. All right, so we're going to look at some more stuff. We got review scores. This is going to show you guys some more funny stuff. We're going to compare these. But I'm going to be right back. I got to go. I got to step away for 1 second, people. Sorry. Okay. 1 minute, please. I'll be right back after these messages.
Beta! Remark.
All right, people, I've returned. All right, so we're going to look at some reviews. Before we get into all the reviews, we're going to watch some really unfair treatment for a game called Rise. And actually, I actually really enjoyed Rise. This is some more stuff that the media had done in order to please a lot of fanboys on the Sony, I believe on the Sony side, because this game was available on the PC. So, there was nobody hating this title. This is actually, in many ways, I believe, a title that inspired the new God of War. Because, God of War used to have like an overhead view, like the character was tiny. And then Rise came out, Sony saw it, and they were like, oh, bro, we need to make a God of War look like that now, right? That's what I think happened. This game definitely had a splash. It had a profound effect on Sony and a lot of these Sony fanboys. And they were pissed that this thing wasn't coming to the PlayStation because it looked amazing. And it still looks great to this day. And people just wanted to hate this so bad. And we're going to go and we're going to show this right now.
We're here in Cologne to check.
So this was Polygon, right? And I remember at the time, because I thought Rise looked amazing. I was looking forward to it. And I saw this video on Polygon, and this fucking guy just he put so much energy into fucking hating this. And he did it for you guys. He did it for the fanboys that were angry that this wasn't on PlayStation. And this is what a lot of these people do. They want to get the other system because they're fanboys. They don't want to get both. Or they just want, this is like the only time I use the word hater. This is them hating, people. They hated the fact that this shit wasn't on their system. And so to make these people happy, so they didn't have buyer's remorse, they crushed this fucking game. They just were constantly shitting on it. And that's what this guy does here. Let's watch this.
Check out Gamescom and GDC Europe. Crytek's here also, but they want to show us Rise, and in particular address some of the concerns that have come up at E3. They want to show people that their game isn't all flash and actually has some substance.
I don't know, I don't know who believed that this game had no substance, but this is what they wanted to believe. I remember everyone saying, there's quick time events. It's like, guess what? All those God of War games had quick time events, right, bro? They had quick time events. Actually, this game played like Batman. It played like Mad Max. It had that same combat system you find in Batman, and Batman was loved by a lot of people. You're people gonna tell me that Until Dawn, a game that has no combat at all, is better than Rise? I enjoy Until Dawn, people, but Rise is in a lot of ways like an interactive movie, but it has tons more gameplay than Rise has. Not Rise, sorry. Until Dawn, or these other games, like what's the other ones? The ones from that Quantum Theory company? Like whatever they have. That company that makes all those games, like Heavy Rain, right? How is that okay and getting all these high scores? But Rise, which has this amazing story, all this great graphics, the gameplay was actually good. It wasn't terrible, it was good. It was repetitive, but all games are repetitive, right? You shoot, you shoot the whole time. Oh, let's platform, right? They just wanted to fucking hate this thing. And since they hated it so much, it tanked. I think it actually killed the company. Almost killed this fucking company.
What they showed was combat, about a half hour of it. They wanted to show that there was a lot more nuance in the way that the character handled and the way he took down barbarians.
Oh yeah, unlike the Sony games like God of War, this game actually had online, where you can compete. Competitive online, people. Yeah. Standards are higher, huh?
Are you hoping the end result will be a combat akin to something like Batman, where you're sort of ping-ponging between enemies? Or do you feel like it's more about focusing on one enemy at a time?
When we set out to make the game, like we like the concept of flow, right? And we said, okay, at a very basic level, like how do we create enemies that try to break you out of that? So definitely
you can tell it's inspired also by the movie 300.
There's a component about that, like being able to ping pong, and like the better you get at it, it just feels good to do that. But you mentioned like the 1 versus 1, so we have a camera system that will actually fluctuate based on the different amounts of enemies. So when you're fighting one guy, it really is this mano-y-mano kind of feeling, which is a lot different from games like Batman or other kind of games of the genre. And that goes back to our kind of earliest thing of this brutality, this close-up combat,
right.
A real life and death struggle. It feels good because now in Gamescom it's starting to come out. It's starting to say, okay, well, all these pieces that we planned all these months ago, wondering if it would work, it's starting to come together. So yeah.
The executions, basically you wear down an enemy to the point where they have a skull floating over their head, and that goes into an execution mode, which is essentially a quick time event.
It's essentially Batman, people. In Batman, you hit the guys, you beat the shit out of them, then you can finish them off with a punch or whatever. That's kind of it. They have like fatalities in here. They could have refined this some more. It's a difficult game. It's not easy, people. Anybody who's played it. Let's watch this.
Something like that, yeah.
So why not, unless I'm misunderstanding, there is no fail state there. So if you go through that quick time event, mess up all the button presses, not just the timing, but let's say press the wrong buttons, you're still going to kill the guy.
Yep.
Why did you make that decision? Why not allow people to fail?
What you find is actually the challenge is getting into the executable state. And so what we found is actually, before...
There's nothing, anybody who's played this, it's a good system. It's a more refined, it's a more complex version of what's in Batman. When you kill these guys in a certain way and they reward you, they give you points, health. It's a better system than what Batman had. What Batman had at the time. I don't know what Batman has now, but I know they didn't have anything as sophisticated as in this game. This has a similar combat system to Batman, but it added more to it.
As we were iterating through combat, we had interruptions on executions. But what ended up happening just felt like too much, too hardcore, because it's not easy fighting 6 of our enemies because they dynamically move around. So you get to this point and you just want kind of, this nice payoff.
What they're focusing on is the fluidity of combat and the way it works through animation. Unfortunately, that means that they had to simplify some of the movements, and it ends up feeling like a game that perhaps is catering a little too much to the mid-core gamers.
So you see how he's overly negative, and this guy doesn't even have the balls to say this in front of this man. He has the nerve to come to that studio, and you see how overly negative he is? This game hasn't even come out yet. He just seems like it's catering to the not hardcore gamers. Like he's just being overly negative for no reason.
And won't appeal to people who are really hardcore.
It won't appeal to people that are really hardcore. What, all the hardcores play Batman? Right? Don't they all play Batman? The hardcores? Bro, this game plays like a harder version of Batman. The combat in here is harder than... you can get killed very easily in this game. It's actually, I get killed easier in this game than probably in God of War. This is not an easy game when you put it at the high difficulty.
Combat fanatics.
When you do something that's like super like sword fighting simulation.
But I like he's right off the bat fucking negative. And like I told you, this is a hack job. This is so that Sony fanboys don't have buyer's remorse. There was such a focus on hating this game because it looks so damn good.
Almost forcing the game to be about single enemies rather than multiple enemies. Yeah, I mean, I really wish it would be cool, like at some point, to run you through some of the older builds, because you feel the parry and you're like, oh, that parry, was great, and then this, guy comes with a flying attack, and you're like, oh man, I was doing this parry animation.
Oh, he's like smiling in front of him. He's just thinking of the next negative thing he's gonna say about his game that he's working on.
Animation that took this many frames, and I just couldn't react to this other guy. Is these kind of things that you can't read in a book, or if you just watch a video, or you'll never figure out. But why does hit pause feel good on this frame? Like, what does animation like do?
Not to me, man. I fucking hate this game, man. I hate it. It's not catered to the hardcore.
To the actual combat system, whether it's Street Fighter or like a DMC, or there are like, it really is about that technical understanding of like what it takes to build something that feels good. And the thing that E3 gave us was like, okay, well, they definitely hate this idea that, there's this a game that is just about QuickTime events. So I think, coming out of games,
it wasn't just about QuickTime events. People, again, they tried to hate this fucking game so much, even though God of War 1,000,000% took influence from this title here.
We just want to let you no, we've been working hard on something, that has a lot more depth than what you saw there.
What the game needs to deliver, and developers want to deliver, is something that has the nuance and the back and forth of a Street Fighter title. What they might end up with is a generic feeling button masher, and frankly, there's way too many of those already.
You see how negative he is? I told you people, right? It's all fucking negative. It was all done to please you fucking Sony fanboys. Rise is trash. It's garbage. It's trash. Right? That's what they did this for. This is a corrupt fucking media. You should tell this guy this. Why? Hey, dude, how much money did they pay you for this shit? Why is this all negative?
It's in the back and forth of a Street Fighter title.
It's back and forth, but it might end up as a piece of shit.
Why didn't you say it might end up being fucking great? It could also be that too, but he's going to end it with,
it might be a piece of shit. It might come out like garbage.
Fourth of a Street Fighter title. What they might end up with is a generic feeling button masher, and frankly, there's way too many of those already.
It might end up feeling like a generic button masher, but just...
That's hilarious, isn't it? That's hilarious. Well, we could say some Uncharted, right?
It might feel like a generic third-person shooter, and there's far too many of those.
Right? Right. All right, so there's some more bullshit, right? The game was good. The game was very good. I enjoyed it. If you're going to put it on the same level with an Until Dawn, it takes a big old shit on Until Dawn. You put it next to Death Stranding, it might actually take a big old shit on Death Stranding. But that didn't stop them from giving. We're going to look at Death Stranding later. But yeah, people hated it, right? They had no interest in that game, that stupid button masher, right? All right, so over here we have a very well-known YouTube channel. Not as good as this one, obviously. I'm going to zoom this in. Look, this is Uncharted 4 when it was released. He was playing it on this channel. This is his first video. He has 13 million subscribers. That's 8.4 million. This is 8 years ago, obviously, people. There's some research I've done. In 8 years, this game has 8.4 million views. Uncharted. His first gameplay video he did of it. Now we're going to look at the game that everybody fucking hated, right?
It was just a piece of trash. It's a generic button mashy piece of garbage.
Oh, first stream of this one. I wonder who are watching this. This is the first one on the Xbox One. 10 million views. I understand there's more years, but this was, I looked at this as soon as the game came out, and this guy was getting loads of views for this game. Why? Because everybody had an interest in it.
But we all fucking hate it. It's the super button mashing piece of trash.
Right? No, people. It's because this is what happens when these fucking people are unhappy. They got buyer's remorse, so they had to crush this title. This isn't right to do, you know that? It's not right. And this is the review that GameSpot gave to Rise. A 4. You want to know why they did that? Because for sure, people, I'm just going to make a wild guess. This was paid. They paid them to do this shit. A lot of these major sites were probably paying for this stuff. This, again, there's no reason why this title should have got a 4. None at all. Because this is in many ways an interactive movie experience. It's just a very good one. They framed this all wrong. This is a shit review. The game, if anything, should have got at least an 8. All right, so it says the good, wonderful visuals, some fantastic vocal performances. Vocal performances. They're not just going to say performances, because this game had great facial animation. It had amazing production. And in many ways, it blows. I love God of War. I like the old games, and I like the new one. I don't like Ragnarok that much. Not a big fan of it. I'm going to try to finish it on the channel. I've been trying to play, but it's hard to play, people. It's hard to play through. It's fucking, it doesn't get me like that first reboot. It doesn't. I'd rather play Rise, actually. Some fantastic vocal performances. The bad. And look at all the bad. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They got 5 fucking lines of bad. They don't even talk about the combat. These motherfuckers said they loved the combat in Batman, but in this game, we hate it. It's garbage. We're not even going to bring it up. We're not going to bring on the online. The online for Rise, they have online, people. You know that, right? It's good. It was good from when I played. Combat is shallow and repetitive. Wait, just like Batman? Just like God of War? Just like any other first-person shooter game? See, they want to hate it. They have to justify this 4. And you know what's funny is that a 5 on GameSpot is reserved for games that are unplayable, that are broken. They give it a 4. So what is it? What is it? It's full of slowdown. It's broken. All right. Combat is shallow and repetitive, lays the gore on so thick that that severed limb quickly becomes yawn-worthy. All right, so God of War, where they chop the guy's head off or take an axe and just chop him right down the middle of his body and it's all this gore. It's boring, right? So yawn-worthy. Often laughable script, which it isn't, people. It actually got better performances than God of War, I think. They killed the guy's dad, I think, at one point. They kill all his loved ones. These got good performances in here. These guys that did this game are literal like Shakespearean actors that were motion captured. This game has very good performances in it. When you watch this, when you watch the scene they had at the E3 trailer, if you haven't played this when he's on the boat, that's a very intense performance. It's very nuanced. The way when you look at his face, it's not, boy. This is the performances in God of War. Boy. Go there, boy. Is that a great performance? But I bet if you look at the review, they say, amazing performances. All right, often laughable script, bland multiplayer modes. It's just all trash, right? It's all garbage. Fucking Sony games don't even have online. They don't even have online modes to talk about because they don't have online. But we're just going to shit on the fact that these developers have put more work into it to add an online that you can play with another person. Community. This is what the system's about. Sony's all about the single player experience. They're not about the co-op experience. I don't know. It's weird, people. I don't know what it is. It's for shut-ins. I don't know what it is. Tightly controlled paths stop you from exploring the beautiful scenarios. Scenery. Sorry, not scenarios. Scenery. That's ridiculous because, again, they could say the same thing about Uncharted. They could say the same thing about God of War. They could say the same thing about all this stuff. Tightly controlled paths. You know how you can't explore the world of God of War at all, really, or Uncharted, or Last of Us, or any of those games, or Knack. Do you want to know what's funny? They actually gave Knack a higher review, and Knack is a straightforward path, right? Knack, the combat's more what? And I don't hate Knack. I played a little. I haven't finished any of them, but I do like. I'm playing the first one. I might play some on the channel. But kind of a bit harsh, I think. I think it's a bit bullshit. That's what it is. It's a bullshit fake score. It's to please a bunch of fucking fanboys. That's what it's for. It's a double standard, people. Like I said, you could put a game out like Heavy Rain on the PlayStation platform, And it's gold. It's got a 9, it's got 8s, it's got 10s. Got no gameplay. You literally walk around. That's all you do is walk around. But that's cool. We're just going to walk around, bro. And that gets a 10. 10 walking around on a PlayStation console is what? That's a 10. All right, so here we got the guy who reviewed this game. It says, Mark loves a good action game, having reviewed the likes of DMC, Devil May Cry, and God of War, Ascension. He somehow willed himself to play Rise through to completion and spent an evening hammering through some multiplayer on Xbox Live. So you see here, he had to somehow willed himself somehow. So it's just such a piece of trash, right? But you could play Until Dawn, right? Should I go look up the review for Until Dawn? I bet you it's a really high review. I bet you it's about a 10 on their site. Usually is. Do they have like something out for this company? I think what it is they have some connections to the rival company. Look at this. Gears of War, one of the most influential games. Literally. This is one of the Last of Us. You remember Last of Us? They had that mode factions where you're doing like fatalities and the cover system, everything. It all is inspired by Gears of War. They gave it a fair. Notice the trend here? That they got a fair just like they got for the Halo Master Chief Collection. Look at the Metacritic score and the user score. It's a 9.94 and a 9.1. This game is a 10 for sure. Gears of War deserves a 10. Perfect score. Why? Because it's one of the most influential games ever created. I don't care what anybody says. I can go on many examples and show you it's one of the most influential games ever made. Look at this. Keep in mind, Gears of War has a multiplayer mode and it has co-op. This game here has no co-op and it has no multiplayer. Uncharted, Drake's Fortune. I enjoyed this game. I did like it, but it got a great. Great. Why does Gears of War get 6 and this game here gets an 8? You guys not noticing there seems to be some weird fishy stuff going on. And they ain't the only ones giving these weird scores. Why are you getting higher scores for delivering less? Why are the standards lower on the Sony consoles? Why is that? What the fuck is going on? Uncharted 2. I love this game. I thought it was great. It had online and it had co-op. It's a great package. This is the score Gears of War should have got. And if anything, the Gears of War should have got a 10 because Gears of War was the inspiration for Uncharted. They were literally the guys that they copied to make this game. Without Gears of War, you probably don't even have Uncharted. Okay? Remember Doom? What would they call it? They call it Gears Raider. That's what it was called at the time. Gears Raider. Because without, again, Gears of War came out in 2006. This is the second iteration of this game. And they had taken all kinds of stuff from Gears of War. And the third game took even more from Gears of War. They got a 9.5, but Gears of War gets a 6.0. 6? Really? Fair? One of the most influential games ever made? Really? Just gonna go over all these people. Go over some of this stuff right here. This goes with the review for the I do sort of respect the fact that they brought the score down for the Uncharted collection, but still, come on. Because you see here, they were excited. They where is this? This is Uncharted, right? Hopefully this is the right thing I'm pulling up. Brilliant pace adventure. Give me 1 second. Clumsy cover system. The system, and what's funny is at the bottom here on the bat, it says clumsy cover system in tight spaces. This game was ripping off Gears of War, but they didn't have that tight cover system. So these guys, in many ways, are probably comparing this to Gears of War. They're not going to tell you that, but they're saying clumsy cover system. Compared to other games outside of Gears of War, the cover system in Uncharted is totally fine. But when you compare it to a amazing cover system like Gears, now it becomes clumsy. It's like floaty. It doesn't have that nice tight feel like Gears of War. Gears of War, that cover system is amazing. Even to this day, it's like the gold standard. And almost no one, and by almost, I mean no game, has matched it. Platforming sections limit exactly what you can climb on. So yes, I mean, this is the same issue I have with God of War. And it's not climbing. It's like the new God of War, Ragnarok, is got terrible level design. I don't know if these reviewers ever told you this, but their level design is garbage. You don't know where the fuck you're going. The map is trash. And a lot of times you think you can go places and you can't. That's called poor level design. Okay, clumsy. Wait. Is this the right game? I hope this is the right game. Okay. I think this is, am I right? Is this Uncharted? I'm looking for where it says Uncharted. I think this is Uncharted. Wait, yes, it is. This is the review for Uncharted 2. And right there, fun and intense co-op, right? They talk about the co-op. It's funny because if you look at the review for the Nathan Drake collection, they didn't even bring up co-op. They don't even bring up the fact that they removed the online. And this review's a 95. Why? Probably because, you know, the package is better. It's a good package. It's got online and it's got co-op. All right. Joyous multiplayer, complete with perks, with the perk system. Joyous multiplayer. That's what it says there, right? Right there. I don't know if you can see my cursor. Right here. Joyous multiplayer. Why didn't you guys bring up the fact that the multiplayer was removed if you thought it was great? For Halo, they brought it up, right? I remember reading the review and they said one of the reasons people even played Halo was for the online. So maybe some people played the Uncharted for the online, right? Here's another one. This is The Last Guardian. You know, this game ran at sub 20 frames. This game ran at way below sub 30 frames. They gave this thing a superb. They almost gave it a 10. You know, back in the day, this 9 was, I think, the very first Halo, which is probably one of the most influential games in gaming history, next to Super Mario Brothers, right? And GoldenEye and some of these other titles. But Halo's way up there. They gave that a 9. They gave this, I mean, I guess these guys throwing 9s around like it's nothing. They got the standards are super low when it comes to Sony, and that's no joke. So you see, they gave it this 9, right? We're gonna watch the way this game was running on the system. And that they're gonna give it this super high score. It's ridiculous. It's like this company could do whatever they want. All right, so right now we're looking at a Digital Foundry video where they talk about the performance of Last Guardian.
Hi, it's Tom with Digital Foundry taking a quick look at The Last Guardian. Patch 1.03 is out, and many of you have asked for a test to see if performance is any better. As ever, patch notes for the game are vague, but one very noticeable improvement is in its camera controls. The launch code suffered
camera controls, not camera controls. This is what you got the PS4 Pro for. The camera controls are better now, everyone.
Very obvious input lag, not helped by the huge dead zones on the right analog stick. That wide dead zone meant camera movement didn't kick in until you basically had that stick fully tilted in any direction. But now in patch 1.03, this has been tweaked for the better, and even small nudges move the camera. It's far from the most responsive.
And people, I don't hate these teams. I love the games these guys made. They made Ico, and the other one, what was the other one? Shadow of the Colossus. I'm going to play that on this channel. This is actually some of the reasons I bought a PS5 was to play these titles. Because on the PS5, supposedly, these run solid. But this game here, The Last Guardian, you supposedly you can't patch it or put any of their patches, because if you do, you can't play it at 60 frames. You can only play it at 30. But the PS5 actually plays these games the way they were intended to be played, which is at 60 frames. They're uncapped. But we're going to watch this because at the time, this is what these reviewers played it on, was the PS4.
System in the world, and it still gets lost in tight corners, but it's a massive improvement. But what about the game's other technical shortfall, the frame rate? Well, I've spent a good day testing both base PS4 and PS4 Pro on patch 1.03, and I'll say this up front, there's not much improvement at all. Compared to the launch day patch 1.01, don't go in expecting a radical overhaul.
So this game, people ran like fucking garbage. It was running at sub 20. Sometimes I think it was hitting like 18 frames per second. And these guys gave this thing a 9. No co-op, no online. And the story, from what I see, is like kind of shallow. So what?
Though there are a few optimizations here and there. To start, this is the base PS4 running by default at 1080p. It's still,
like I said, people, low standards. When it comes to Sony, they got low standards.
Runs at the worst frame rate of all the options out there, where PS4 Pro in its 1080p mode turned in a much smoother performance overall, though still far from perfect. For me, the base PS4 version was in most desperate need of attention. The positives first then. You can see this in the...
You see that jump down to 21 frames? This is like fucking N64 levels of frame rate.
cave area gets an obvious frame rate boost on 1.03. That sub 20 FPS hitch we saw before is gone and replaced with a lesser drop to 25 FPS with the newer patch. Better still, this short segment holds at a near locked 30 FPS after that point, where on the day one patch it was lurching between 20 and 30 FPS. Now, this is exactly the kind of boost we'd hope for across the whole game, but in truth the bigger picture isn't so impressive. Every latest stress test we
Again, you guys saw that on the Xbox, they're all crying about fucking 30 frames per second. On this game, this shit's getting 9s and 10s on scores, on review sites. On major gaming sites, it's getting 9s, even though it's got shit performance like this. Oh, we don't even need 30 frames on the PlayStation. We could do 21. That's okay.
Find on base PS4 practically ran at the same frame rate as the day one patch, whether that's with Trico jumping into the flooded cavern, emerging to the grassy outdoors area, or even matching cutscenes inside the ruins itself. Each test turned in identical results. Overall, the biggest success story really is that the camera controls are much more responsive on patch 1.03.
Alright, so you see it, people. The biggest success is that fucking the camera controls are better. But look, the game runs at 21, 22, 23 frames per second. That's a 9. That's a 9. That's a perfect... That's a 9. Superb. Right? Superb. We're going to go look at some Xbox games here. Right? We're just going to look at the competition. I got to show it, the double standards, people. This game, I played it. Plays great. Probably, I like Death Stranding, people. It is fun. Sorry, it's not fun. It's interesting. Another Fair. You're noticing a trend here? Fair. This game is made by the creators of Metroid. And it actually, in a lot of ways, it was inspired some Sony games. I think. It actually did. It inspired them. The robot and all this. This game, if it was on an NES, on a Nintendo console, probably would have got a perfect 10. This is not a bad game at all. This game has amazing platforming. The graphics are not bad. The story... It's kind of sad for a cartoonish game. It's kind of crazy. I remember at the time the reviewers were saying that it's a dead, empty world, which is funny because this world has more life in it than Death Stranding. Death Stranding is a dead, empty world. You literally walk around that game, this empty fields with nothing happening, and then ghosts pop up out of nowhere, and then there's some story segments. But for the most part, you're seeing like projections of people and nothing. Got 9s all over the place. We're going to show that in a second. This game definitely did not deserve a 6. And I remember Phil Spencer, the president of the Xbox, literally coming out and saying it's bullshit. He said that is some fucking bullshit. Not exactly the exact thing he said, but he pretty much said that. He said this is some bullshit. Superb. Death Stranding. It's an interesting game, people, but gameplay-wise, this is not better than ReCore. Not at all. If anything, if you're going to give a superb to anything, it would go to ReCore, not Death Stranding, right? There's that double standard there. They literally had reviewers saying that, do games really have to be fun? This is what they said when Death Stranding came out. It's an interesting game, and I'm playing through it. I've never beat it. It's a hard play, but it is interesting, right? It is. It's interesting, but it definitely, gameplay-wise, is not better than ReCore. I don't care what anyone says. Okay, so here what we have here. This is a review for 1 second. This is Gears of War. I think this is the remaster. This is the Marcus Phoenix collection. I think that's what they call it. No, they call this Ultimate. I think this is Gears of War Ultimate. Actually, this game was 1080p, just like all these guys were harping on 1080p. And it had all the Gears of War games, all of them, and it was a complete, not a remaster, a remake. It was a complete remake, and they even redid the online. Remember, I guess they lifted it slightly because the original score for Gears 1, they gave it a 6. Now they gave it a 7. These guys, they got to do so much, you know. They got an online, they got co-op, they redid the entire game. They still can't get a score above Uncharted, which has no online and no co-op, and they removed a bunch of features, but still it gets the better score. All right, so here we had the good 1080p and 60 frames. All right, remember, like I said, the standard on here, same console generation as Uncharted 4. Uncharted 4 had a 30 frame per second. It was 30 frames per second. Wow, it was 30 frames, while Gears of War over here was 60. They not only did they outdo, well, they got the standard, what these guys set, which was 1080p, and they did 60 frames. It's not enough. 1080p and 60 frames multiplayer make this 9-year-old game look and feel great. Horror-driven campaign creates a dark and personal tone. Does it say personal? Yes, personal. I don't know if that makes any sense. Personal tone throughout. Controls and cover mechanics are still at the apex of third-person shooters. So like I said earlier, when they were comparing the controls of Uncharted, they were definitely comparing it to Gears of War. They wouldn't say that, but that's definitely what they were doing because they're the gold standard. They created this. They created the real cover system. They revolutionized the cover system. The bad, frustrating AI. Campaign becomes a slog in the late game chapters, right? Online and all. You know, the bulk of the time people play this title, it's going to be online. 7. People just cannot, these guys cannot get a break. This is double standard, you know? The standards, look at it. We got Knack over here. Knack gets a 7. And Knack 2, right? Got no online, got no co-op. Nothing. It's just a game where you jump. You jump on things and shoot things, I guess, sort of. I'm going to play through it. I kind of like it. It's like a classic. It's almost like an NES game. But it's just Sony gets 7s without even trying. Here you go. Here's a 7. Good. All right. We're going to go over some more of these. We're just showing you how funny this is, you know? These guys barely have to try. You got these low standards over here, and this is why they're removing the onlines and all this, because they're like, these motherfuckers don't care about nothing. They're okay with us just like giving them shit. They eat our shit. All right, so here again, No Man's Sky. At the time when this was released, they show here, it says PS4, PC, Xbox One. This review was from 2016. This is when the game came out. That 9 does not, this was for the PS4 version, not the Xbox or any of that other stuff. They gave this thing a superb when it came out. And from what I heard, it was a piece of shit. The users gave it a 74, a 71, and a 63. Why? Because it was garbage. That's why. And they maybe not garbage, but it wasn't great. And these are Sony fanboys doing this. People that, you know, who just want to love this stuff. You know, a lot of times people buy these systems. A lot of times people purchase things and they want to love it, right? They want to because they spent their fucking hard-earned money on it. So they want to love it, right? You don't want to feel like you got fucked over. And this is what we saw earlier. Rise gets a 4. It ain't on the level of Knack, man. It ain't on that Knack level, right? Yeah, you know, it ain't on that Knack level, right? You should go by Knack, you know, if you're into, I don't know, playing like games. I mean, I haven't really played Knack. I think I own both of them. I'm going to play them eventually, but I'm going to make a wild guess that they're very different experiences, and I would like both, but I think story-wise, I think I'd like Rise a lot more. I think gameplay-wise, I might like Rise more as well. I like Rise. Rise is a great game. All right? All right, so we're going to look at some more stuff here. We didn't look at this earlier. I don't think we looked at this yet. Don't worry. You can add an Ultra HD disk drive to PS5 Pro. This is what we talked about earlier, but you didn't see this. This is what Sony said. Oh, you can add a drive to it, bro. You know, they're edging you into an all-digital future, right? They don't want you to have physical ownership. And it don't matter anyway, because they've already made it where your discs, they are DRM. So they basically, you might as well not even own them because you don't own them. They're charging you $70 for shit you don't even own. This is why I refuse to spend these high prices on this shit. They go out there and they tell you, oh, this is the Ultra Edition. You're going to go out and spend fucking $90, $100 on shit you don't even own. It's basically a glorified version of renting. You're renting these titles. They have the right to take them from you whenever they feel like. Right? So maybe you go and you put some cheat code in the game and now they decided, hey, bro, you're off of PSN. Boom. The collection that you spent thousands of dollars on is gone. Isn't that cool? It's for the players, right? All right, let me zoom this in real quick. One second, people. 1 second. There's never going to be another bad guy like me, you know? These motherfuckers don't like me. They don't like me, bro. Just gotta say it. Right, Sony? Gotta expose you, bro. I had to do it. You had to do that you had to go soil her like that? That's I'm referring to the Scarface people. All right, so Horizon Zero Dawn Remaster has controversial requirement on PC. And you know what the requirement is? You got to sign into PSN. You don't fucking own it. You don't own it. It's a glorified rental. That's what it is. They're charging us $70 fucking for these games and you don't even own them. Do you know how bullshit that is? I mean, that's the kind of thing that makes you want to go into these stupid subscription programs and just play the shit and be done with it. This is probably why Sony doesn't put all their games in these things, because what I would do is I would wait for all of them to be in PSN. I'd play through all of them and boom, cancel. $10, $15, go through all their games and be done with them. This is why their model is not great. Xbox, they know, they're smart. They put online in there, right? Not only is that more value, but that makes you keep coming back. So if you have a subscription service, you're going to keep coming back to it. Sony's obsessed with this kind of movie model, right? I guess I would call it, maybe it's almost like Netflix, because their games are like movies. That's not to say they're bad. So I enjoy a lot of them, but they're movies. They're interactive movies. So once you're done with that interactive movie, you really don't have much of a reason to stick around, especially with the fact that you don't fucking own them. So you might as well just experience these games in their subscription system and then be done with them. Be done with them. Don't put these up on a shelf and pretend you own them, because once you're not connected to the internet, boom, they're gone. This is what they're doing right now. It's all DRM. It's everything they told you to hate about the Xbox. They're doing all of it. Okay? All right? Okay, so right now we're going to look at a couple other items. Give me one second. And remember to subscribe to the real Futv, people. You are watching Not For the Players. This is an expose on the 8th generation, for the most part, 8th generation of console gaming. And it still continues to this day, people. All this bullshit still exists. All this favoritism, all this bias, all of it, it's still happening. All right, one moment. We're going to get into our next piece. We went through the reviews. It's bullshit. All right? It's effing bullshit, right? All right, I got some other stuff over here. This is showing you how far back this goes. This is in the right here. This is in the realm of what Peter Moore at the time. Peter Moore said, hopefully I pronounce this correctly, technical espionage. This is what Peter Moore talked about when it came to the Xbox 360. Remember the red ring of death? Remember that? On the Xbox, he said that it was actually created. That was done by people in the factory. They had done something that had caused these systems to all overheat and break. I think what it was is that their competition possibly was messing with some stuff because they feared them. This is Metal Gear Solid 2 Substance. It actually ran poor on the Xbox, the superior console. The Xbox, I remember because I owned both the PS2 and an Xbox when these systems came out. The PS2 was, the Xbox was way superior to the PS2. I mean, it did specular highlights. It did all kinds of normal maps and different lighting systems. And did I say yeah, it did. People, it did all kinds of stuff that the PlayStation couldn't do. There was literally games that that were on the Xbox that couldn't even run on a PlayStation 2. Like, or they look like significantly worse on the PlayStation 2. For example, Splinter Cell. Splinter Cell games, you're going to play them on the old consoles, play them on an Xbox, either a PC or an Xbox. The Xbox, I think, was actually more powerful than the Wii. And it came out way before, years before it. The Xbox could do, it ran Doom 3, people. It ran Chronicles, it ran all kinds of games. You go look at Splinter Cell Chaos Theory on the Xbox compared to the PS2 version, or Psychonauts. It was ridiculous how much better the Xbox ran these titles. Like, it was built for these, right? It was way ahead of its time. I mean, there was games, a lot of times the Xbox looked as good. The games on Xbox, on the original Xbox, looked as good as the freaking Xbox 360 and PS3. That's how good, that's how ahead of its time the Xbox was, right? And they're telling me it couldn't run Metal Gear Solid 2, a game that was built for the PS2. What happened, people, is that they intentionally made it run poor. That's probably what happened. They gimped it. They put it on the system and it ran poor. All right, so I'm bringing this up because Sony raised some interesting questions when Microsoft was buying Call of Duty or Activision to the Foreign Trade Commission, which that whole thing's funny. I made a video about that, how Sony was crying about how this would hurt gamers. You know what hurts gamers and gaming retail? All digital. That's what destroys it. And that's what Sony's engaging in. That's what Xbox engaging in. The FTC had problems with. They're trying to raise like the red flag about, Xbox is buying Activision. Call of Duty. It's going to hurt consumers. It's like, no, it's not. What hurts consumers is all this digital shit, and that hurts all these small businesses and even the big businesses like GameStop. Right? It hurts them. It could actually put them out of business. So right here we have. But more broadly, Sony fears Microsoft might strategically try to sabotage Call of Duty on PlayStation in multiple ways by degrading the quality and performance of Call of Duty on PlayStation compared to Xbox. Degrading Call of Duty to ignore PlayStation-specific features, e.g. better control haptics. Want to know the funny thing about those control haptics? They put that in there because they were inspired by the Xbox One controller. Whether you guys know it or not, or like it, the Xbox inspired the PlayStation. Before the Xbox One controller, there were no haptics in any of these game controllers. It was all regular standard rumble. Microsoft put haptics in the triggers. And to this day, they are the gold standard. They feel way better than the Xbox, the PlayStation 5 triggers. The haptics in the Xbox One controller blow away the PlayStation 5 control. Those haptics. You could feel when you're pushing those triggers down, you could feel the tires in driving games. That's where you put the haptics. If it's when you're playing Call of Duty, if there's an explosion, you can feel the explosion in the triggers. This is stuff you don't find in any of these Sony games at all. They don't have that kind of detail in there, and these reviewers never pointed it out. I could feel it. Like when I play EA UFC, right, the first one, you can actually feel the punches in the triggers. You can't feel nothing when you play on the PlayStation 4. There's nothing there. In Call of Duty, you don't feel any of those rumbles in the triggers. There's all kinds of people. There's literally like hundreds, if not, there's over 1,000 games probably that have haptic features on the Xbox. And these reviewers never bring it up. But then when it comes to Sony, they're like, this is a revolution. The haptic controller, right? Bro, they're so late. So they're saying they're going to degrade Call of Duty to ignore PlayStation, blah, blah, blah. All right. The reason I bring this up is because this is what you call projection. That's what this is. This is what Sony most likely has been engaging in for decades. When it comes to the competition, they are sabotaging these games intentionally. I'm going to show you some examples of this. Sony is worried that Microsoft will sabotage Call of Duty for the PlayStation. Yeah, bro. This is projection. This is what Sony does. They've been doing it for a long time. I showed you the example of Metal Gear Solid. All right? Look over here. The Callisto Protocol, the Digital Foundry Tech Review, PS5 versus Xbox Series X and S, plus PC. Hashtag Shutter Struggle analysis. So you see this, people. Look, you see this? 30 frames on the PlayStation, right? Keep in mind, they had a deal. Sony had a deal with the creators of this title. I'm actually working on this game right now. I really enjoy it. I think it's pretty freaking awesome. It's a good game. I'm enjoying it. Maybe I'll play some on the channel. 30 frames, right? 30 frames. That is the PlayStation 5 version with all the ray tracing and everything. The game on the right, the Xbox version, has no ray tracing. None at all. No ray tracing. And look at it. It's 22 frames. If you go and you look at their analysis, it's tanking on the Xbox. This is with no ray tracing. So the PlayStation has the ray tracing, and it's 30 frames locked. So why is it that the Xbox version runs like shit and has no ray tracing? That doesn't make any sense. It's not only is it missing features, but it's running like garbage. And this isn't the only game that happened to. There's many other games that this has happened to. It says, while the Xbox Series X takes a slight lead in 4K and ray tracing performance modes on Devil May Cry 5, the high frame rate mode runs noticeably better on PS5. And we noticed it. I noticed this a lot, this kind of stuff. What was it? I think it was Call of Duty Cold War. One of the first games that came out, Call of Duty, because before Xbox didn't own them. So magically, and so keep in mind, Sony had a deal with Activision. They had a deal with them. And somehow magically, the more powerful Xbox couldn't hold a higher frame rate for Call of Duty, right? It just didn't happen. So we're seeing the same thing here. Why? Well, how the fuck is this more powerful console having issues here? 4K and ray tracing. Look, a slight lead in 4K and ray tracing performance modes on it. So when it went to the high frame rate mode, the Xbox, for some weird reason, the more powerful console couldn't outdo the PlayStation 5. Why is that? What? And people will say, oh, well, it's the hard drive. No, bro, it isn't. Because originally when this game came out to both systems, the Xbox version didn't even have the ray tracing support. There's so many weird things happening. A lot of weird stuff, people. What I'm saying is that this is projection, what Sony's doing. You notice? Are they letting the cat out the bag that this is a thing that happens in the industry? That they're making these games run worse? Is that what's happening? And I think Sony's doing this. I've seen this many times where they have these the same game on the rival consoles, especially if it's a big title like a Call of Duty, it'll run worse on the more powerful console. And we saw this on the Xbox. And this was on multiple titles on the original Xbox where they were running worse than the way weaker PlayStation. You don't think that's weird? All right. And on a side note, sort of on a side note, just to give the Xbox their respect, you see here, out of a field of 25, although not the best-selling console of the 7th generation, this is where the Xbox got their footing on their second console. This is how brilliant these guys were. They're the ones that built modern gaming. You know that, people? They built social gaming, and they still keep pushing it while Sony's trying to push itself back into the basement with all these single-player campaigns. I don't know why they're doing that. And it's great, the single-player stuff. But come on, people, some community stuff. This is where Xbox was. They were pushing this for decades. The Xbox 360 was deemed by Tech Radar to be the most influential by emphasizing digital media distribution and online gaming. This was their first thing, right, people? Xbox they had Netflix, they were selling games digitally. They were doing all this stuff before Sony got into it. Their system was very bare bones. They even brought in Ethernet connections and basically made user profiles when it comes to gaming. You made your gamer name. They did it all. They are innovators, and they are not given any respect for this. It says blah blah digital media distribution and online gaming through Xbox Live, and by popularizing game achievement awards. People, if you don't know, you guys don't know. A lot of people don't know this. They created your PlayStation trophy system. Without Xbox, there wouldn't be a trophy system. Sony literally copied them. Without the Xbox achievement system, they created the achievement system. The achievement system is what would later become the PlayStation trophy system. When PlayStation 3 came out, it had no trophy system. It didn't have it because they hadn't stole it yet from the Xbox. All right? These guys are never given this credit. I'm just going to point it out because they deserve it. This is gaming history. I love gaming, and I'm going to point this all out. Put the credit where it belongs. Now, I don't like Bill Gates or any of this bullshit, but I mean like the Xbox division. Those has no connection to that fuckface. All right? Okay. Just gonna say that, These are people that love gaming, and they innovated like fucking crazy, bro. Okay. Late 2007, following the proven popularity and success of Microsoft's Xbox achievement system, the Steam achievement system was introduced with the launch of the Orange Box in late 2007. You know what's funny is that these guys love Xbox. They do. The Xbox is actually, if you guys don't know it, they're blended together with Sega, the Xbox division. They started in gaming with Sega. Sega was one of the most innovative companies around. The first head of the Xbox when they started doing even more innovations was a guy named Peter Moore. He was the head of Sega when they made the Dreamcast. And he was also the head of the Xbox division, the Xbox 360 at the time when they started bringing in all these innovations. And they've always been innovative, people. The Xbox gaming division has always been innovating. They brought the hard drive, they put it in the console. They put the Ethernet port in the console. They did so many stuff. They built the interface for all this community stuff. They built the user profiles. They did all kinds of stuff that was influential throughout the entire industry. It went into the PC. It went everywhere. Nintendo's still catching up, I think. So Sony took a couple of years to copy, but you see it right here, right? The popularity of the achievement system. This is the reason why now Steam has Steam achievements. This is why they took it from the Xbox. Without the Xbox, there wouldn't be achievements in these games. Yes, they have some mini systems when there was always kind of like achievements in gaming. There was always the scores. You went to the arcade, you played Pac-Man and all that. You have scores, but they brought it into a whole nother level. They brought it to a whole nother. I mean, Sony ripped it off all the way. You play a Sony game or any kind of game, Steam game as well, or even a GOG possibly. I don't know if they have achievements. Even RetroArch copied the Xbox achievement system. So basically, you play the game, you get your achievement, and you hear a sound. It goes bloop, and you see this thing pop up, and it tells you your achievement. This is identical. Like, they just took it, people. All right. And we're going to show you. This is just a side note, but it's just to show you, people. This is just for the fanboys. You gotta have some respect, people. If you love gaming, it doesn't matter what company it is. They're innovating. Just be happy that they're innovating. And also be happy when they fucking respect you, right? You're putting your hard-earned money into this. They're removing the online. They're not giving you, you're buying a new piece of hardware and they're trying to charge you again? Okay, look over here. The trophy system was launched. This is a PlayStation trophy system. The PlayStation system, I bought the PS3 when it came out, people. I had the Xbox 360 and the PS3. It was night and day, people. When that PS3 came out, that shit was like in the Stone Ages compared to the Xbox. This thing, the Xbox had all kinds of differences. You literally had to watch the downloads. Like, imagine this. They didn't have demos on the PlayStation 3 when it came out. They didn't have online at all. They didn't have an online infrastructure. This thing came out a year after the Xbox 360 and didn't even have an infrastructure. We're just like basically, it's crazy, people. Another thing that's crazy, again, with the low standards is when Metal Gear Solid 4 came out, the thing had fucking 30-minute load times and they gave it like 10s on these websites. You imagine that. You're waiting 30 minutes for a game to load to get to the next level. And I'm not saying the game installing. I'm saying it for the get to the next section of the game. You would play through a part of the game, that section would end, and then you would wait 30 minutes. And the character would be smoking a cigarette on screen for 30 minutes. You have to wait. Crazy shit. All right, and they were okay with that. That's a 10 right there. It's a Sony game, right? They probably should remaster that. That would, if you want to remaster something, do Metal Gear Solid 4. Please, do that one. That deserves a remake or a remaster or something. All right, it says the trophy system was launched with PlayStation 3 system software update 2.40. on July 2, 2008. Keep in mind, the Xbox achievement system was created most likely in 2003 or 2004, around there, and then they brought it to the Xbox 360 in 2005. Sony's all the way towards the end of 2008, and now they have what they called a trophy system because this was such a big hit, and they had to rip it off. 2008, however, it was withdrawn later the same day due to small number of users becoming unable to restart their consoles. So they basically were, I guess, bricking people's systems. After performing the update, the issue was addressed in version 2.41 of the system software release on July. So they ripped them off and then they fucking failed. They had to relaunch it again because it was all bugged out. Right? They're just good at that, yeah? But again, we have to respect the fact that these guys innovated. Anybody that loves this trophy shit, you know where to look. It's the Xbox, all right? But these guys, a lot of times the gaming media doesn't give these dudes their respect. They do deserve it, people. They're innovating. They are. They've done it many times, the control stuff, the haptics, all that shit. They innovated a lot. All right? So we've gone through all kinds of shit here, people. We've gone through a lot of stuff. And really, it's really just here to show what I'm trying to show, was to show the double standards. And there are many of them. There's a lot of effing double standards. But what we need to do, people, we need to not allow these companies to fucking rip us off. And we need to not allow them to make everything fucking digital. That is not a great future. And this is what they're trying to bring in. We want physical ownership. We don't want to be nickel and dime for all these fucking remasters and all this other bullshit. And this is one of the things that really gets me when it comes to Sony and their fanboys. How they have such low standards. How is it that the competition does so much better? And all you do is just deny it, just like you did with Rise. It's a piece of junk. It looks amazing. I love it. It's like these guys, people got some problems, people. They got some problems. The whole point of this was just to point out the double standards, the corruption, and the coming future of digital bullshit. And the digital bullshit really is only happening because of people's low standards and them being inconsistent. If you hate DRM, keep hating it. And it doesn't matter who's doing it. It doesn't matter if it's Sony, if it's Steam, any of these guys. And Steam's doing it too. This is actually, a lot of this shit is coming from the PC. It started in the PC. Now they're bringing it to the consoles, right? None of this shit is okay, people. It's not for the players. It never has been, just like Sony. Or maybe the current Sony leadership, right? Let's hold their feet to the fire. Start holding these guys' feet to the fire. Stop allowing these double standards. If the competition is doing a great job and you think, really look at it, understand they're doing a great job. And then look at the company that you love so much, who's fucking you over, and say, bro, why the fuck aren't you doing what they're doing? Because I paid for this. Now you're going to go out and look, you're going to spend $700 on a PS5 Pro? Really? You saw the thing with the drive, right? You know you don't own any of those games. You're okay with that, right? You okay with that? But I thought you guys hated the Xbox because DRM, right? But now it's okay? $700, right? So you can have DRM? That's funny. That's really, really effing funny. It really is. What a hypocrite.
What the fuck is this piece of shit?
All right, I'm feeling good, people. Remember to subscribe to the Real Food TV. You've been watching Not for the Players, and that's really what they're not for. We got corrupt fanboys. We got corrupt media. We got a corrupt corporation, a corrupt company. And that's okay. They can be fucking corrupt, I guess, because you can't, people, there's corruption in the world. You can't get rid of corruption. You got to overcome this shit for yourself. But when these companies are doing this to you and basically insulting your intelligence and shitting on you and trying to rob you, you got to not only point this shit out, but vote with your dollar. And also, don't act stupid. Don't come over here and tell me that this company's evil, but then accept this other company that's doing worse or the same or worse, right? Okay? You get that? All right, guys. I want to thank you all for joining us on Not for the Players. And they ain't for the players, people. They aren't. Even though I'm going to play some of these games on here and all that. This is some bullshit. All right? Maybe the future is in piracy. Maybe. It could be. But for that, you want to get a PC. I didn't tell you that. That's just something that happened. It's just, I just said it. I don't know where it came from. All right? All right, people. Don't be a bunch of betas. Right? Subscribe to the Real Food TV.
Yeah.
Beta!
Don't be a beta. Wait, could you hear that?
Yeah.
Beta! All right, people. Once again, subscribe to the Real Food TV. It is the greatest channel on demand, people. It really is. Right, Joe Pesci?
What the fuck is this piece of shit?
It's PlayStation. It's the gaming industry. It's all the bullshit. It's a bunch of bullshit. And I've been pointing it out for, I'm going to guess, over an hour. All right? But I'm going to be getting out of here, people. Once again, we love you. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. You're kind of an asshole. Yeah, but you're nice. No, you're a good person. You are. Sort of. All right, people. Remember to subscribe. Tell your friends about this. Hit the like button. And see you later. See you later, guys. Thanks for coming by. See you later.